この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Teeaboo and I am here for Mushoku Tensei Wednesday, and it's Wednesday and we're here for Tensei, and that's what we're gonna watch today. Except we might actually not, because I might have fucked up my schedule. I stayed in bed a little bit too long, and then I took a little bit too long to do my morning stuff, and then I did the daily brew, and I haven't even edited it yet. And now I'm looking at the time, and we're in a time crunch toward gym time, where I've got people who are relying on me to go at a certain time, so I'm going to go at the certain time. And I don't think I actually have enough time to do this effectively. At least, I certainly don't have enough time to watch 2 episodes that might be intense and serious episodes back to back. And that's what I've been told that I should do by a lot of people who I trust. Like, more than a few of them have been like, hey, so you know, you really might want to watch episode 16 and 17 together. And I forgot about that. And so I didn't plan for it effectively for today. And so my plans are shot for the day. The plans that I had for the day don't line up. If I were just going to do 1 episode and be fine, I could squeeze it. It would be rough at the moment. The timing would be rough, especially if I have to go and eat, and I do. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do the comment spotlight. And that might be it for today. Sorry. And I'm going to give me a second, I'm just going to post this in the Discord about exactly what I'm doing. Okay, so I just wrote down, okay, I have sat down to record. There is not enough time before other commitments to effectively record 2 episodes, or 1 even, because honestly, at least without a time crunch weighing on my mind. So I'm going to record the comment spotlight, and I'll record any new comments that come in that I want to talk about as well. And then what I am going to do, my plan is this, and this is a set out plan that I will make more concise as I move through the week. I'm going to sacrifice either my Saturday or my Sunday in the interest of effectively recording 16 and 17 together and planning to do so. And so I trust that y'all and my Discord audience and my audience in general will... Well, I trust that the recommendations that these 2 episodes should be together for various reasons, and I'm grateful for all of your patience as I try to figure out the best way to accomplish that in a way that fulfills me and doesn't feel fucked up. So, thank you, and I'm sorry, and shit. And this won't matter because this chunk at the comment spotlight will be at the beginning of the video anyway, but that's what's going down, and that's why the episode is going to be a little bit late on Patreon. I guess the YouTube frogs won't know, but the Patreon peeps will, and that sucks, and it's some bullshit, and I need to fix it. But I totally woke up this morning having forgotten that I was supposed to watch 2 episodes, and that I had planned and promised to do so, and that's not it. I have to do those effectively, and I'm not going to be able to do them today because I screwed up, and it's my fault, and I'm bad me, you know, whatever, but I'm not going to shame myself for it. I'm going to move forward and not let it stop me. So, let's not let it stop us, and let's turn our attention to the comment spotlight from episode 15 of Mushoku Tensei. We'll start off with If's comment. I love how fiercely Eris defends Ghislaine here. Yeah. It makes sense with how prideful Eris is that disparaging someone she respects would genuinely hurt her. It's really interesting to me that I believe this is the first time we've seen her cry besides when she was being physically hurt during the kidnapping, and one of the few times she responds with sadness instead of just anger and violence. This episode really did a lot for me in terms of how I viewed her character. Absolutely. This is Eris standing up for something for herself and standing up for a friend. You know, she's been gaining all this power and this ability and this worldliness, and now she turns it into respect and defensiveness towards somebody who's important to her. I'm going to tie this comment to not the next comment, but to the comment from Jakuza, which says, I really like how Ghislaine's backstory is a parallel to Eris's, a violent, unruly child who is looked down on by others as incapable of performing her duties, i.e. guarding the sacred beast for Ghislaine, and being a proper noblewoman for Eris. But later in life, they're both shown to have great potential to be respectable people when provided with the right teachers and the right environment. Eris is now flourishing in personal development while leading life as an adventurer, similar to what we can assume happened to Ghislaine once she left home. We can assume, we don't necessarily know, but what I want to tie together between these 2 comments is that part of the reason that Eris is so fierce in her defense of Ghislaine is because she identifies with Ghislaine. Ghislaine is an image for Eris of what she could be, right? So you imagine yourself as a young noblewoman, you're surrounded by young noblewomen, right? And older noblewomen, and your mom, Hilda, right? And maybe you have respect for your mom and maybe you don't. Maybe you want to be a fucking swords person and a fighter. And you don't want to learn math, and you don't want to learn any of these things, and you don't want any of this stuff. You want some strength. And the whole world tells you that that's not the way forward for you. and then one character who embodies your ideal walks into your life and tells you, yes, I will teach you, yeah, you're gonna fall fucking in love with that person. They're your mentor. They're you in the future. They're the possibility of what you could be. And so to disparage them is to disparage Eris. To say that Ghislaine is this failure is to say that Eris is going to be a failure too, right? You are walking down her path and therefore this reflects upon you. And so she says no, and I'm proof of it. And that's the story that we get. Exactly. Is that she uses her sword skills and her truth in order to prove that what she learned from Ghislaine is correct and possible, and that the path that she is on, the path that Ghislaine walked, the path of being rejected from a certain aspect of society and finding your own path, is a viable path. And that's a good story because that's correct for Eris, and it's correct for Ghislaine too. And so, well, why does she become so deeply and truly hurt by it, and truly lashing out? And but that's it. That's exactly what you say, is that she cries. She doesn't lash out. She doesn't just punch people in the face or get angry or whatever. She gets really deeply frustrated in a way that she can't even really express effectively, right? And it doesn't burble out in violence. It burbles out in tears and frustration and like, why can't you see the truth? And that's the sort of moment that children sometimes have, and that I have had with parents, where it's like, why can't you see the truth that what I'm doing is possible? Why can't you see the truth that what I'm doing could work? And receiving dismissal. Because that's my story. That's the story that I have with my father, is like, he was like, you need to go, bud. Get the fuck out. And I was like, dude, I'm working on a thing and it's working and it's cool. And he was like, that's some bullshit and it's not worth anything. I was like, well, okay then. And the tears flowed. Because guess what? This is working to some extent. This whole YouTube thing is what I'm talking about. It is working to some extent. And it would probably be working better if I had my father behind me. But instead, he decided not to be. So that desire to convince someone in authority that your way is good and worthy, and that it's not worth dismissing just because it isn't the old way or the traditional way, that's an important story for me. And it's a story that Eris demonstrates really effectively, and that the backstory of Ghislaine demonstrates really effectively, and so I hope we find out much, much more about it. Excellent. Okay. Very first question. Anime actually portrays this subtly during the OP and a few other scenes and conversations, but the only problem with this village is not invaders. They are living in an extremely dangerous environment. Especially during rainy season, the water level rises significantly high, and a lot of people, especially kids, fall to the water due to storms and die. Richard stood guard a whole 3 months period in order to prevent any and all fatal accidents using his eye and body. Rad. You can see how high the water level gets if you look at the trees and after the time skip in this episode. Yeah, none of that is indicated in the show. I'm sorry. It just isn't. It really isn't. Now, I get it that there's the line at the end with the chief saying that to Ruijerd, and you can see the water levels there, but there's no death or destruction or bad things. Literally, the only thing that we see as being dangerous or bad or harmful, there are no monsters, there are no fucking beasts, there are no snakes, there's nothing. It's just happy trees and then a lot of rain. And it's like, that doesn't do it for me, man. I understand that you can really, if you really put a bunch of layers of projection onto the interpretation there, then you can justify it and say like, well, they're not really living this hyper peaceful existence, but they are. And nobody talks about everybody dying during the winters and how many they lost last year, right? Nobody talks about any of that, and so that doesn't do it for me. It just doesn't do it for me. I mean, fine, you get a paper star for there was an attempt, but it's not a good attempt. Not when we talk about the quality and level in general of Rifujin's world building and writing. This Doldia village, it doesn't fit. It doesn't do it. It doesn't hit. Because it's really, it feels like a copy-pasted archetypal representation with barely the outlines of anything interesting to it. And it's not as good as I would expect from the author. It's below him. It's below the story that it's a part of. It's beneath it. That isn't to say that it's the worst interpretation in the world. Not even close. There are way worse Noble Savage interpretations, like by far. And emptier ones that are far worse. But I expect more from the show. And that's a testament to how damn good the show has been. And how damn good the source material has been. It just seems like an oversight to leave it behind. So I get where you're coming at. You're not wrong. It is there. That it's not the only struggle. But like, we're talking, when we talk about real tribal communities and real living in the land communities, the level of struggle is constant, and people are dying all the time. All the time. You get a little cut on you and you die because it's infected with mud and muck. Like, falling into the water is, not even, right? Like, not even the worry. When it's rainy and damp out, infection and disease, how about that? What happens if somebody in your fucking tribal camp gets the flu? Does magic heal the flu? Maybe it does. Maybe it does. I don't know. But they're not fighting off monsters. If the seas, or if the water level were actually above the ground, do you know how much deadly shit would be swimming around in the water? Like, there are snakes the size of 10 of you lined up in the Amazon that sit around and they eat people, and they eat monkeys. That's what we actually have to fear in rainforests. It's not good, and there are insects everywhere, and there are insect-borne parasites and diseases constantly all over the place. So it just doesn't do it for me. It just doesn't do it for me. It seems like a really thin depiction of a primitive lifestyle. Okay? That's my point. And I think your point is a point too. So they're both points, but yeah. Kyle Smith. I don't know why this never occurred to me in my first watch through, but I just realized the entire reason Rudius is making the figures of Ruijerd and giving them to everyone as souvenirs is part of the plan to increase the Spur's reputation through the world. Yeah, I totally didn't get that. And it's working. And what else is interesting is that it's also sort of inspiring other people to do the same thing and to create representations of the people that they care about. That's kind of cool. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Just representing yourself in various ways. Nickmer actually sent me a message that was like, hey, how about those 2 words, man? And I was like, all right, I didn't catch them. Tell me what they were. Nickmer's comment is, people change the whole of Mushoku Tensei in 2 words. And that's exactly it. Rudy sits there hearing about where Ghislaine was before and lining that up and finding that it does not align whatsoever with the way that he's met Ghislaine and the person that he's met. But recognizing because of empathy, that's the thing that allows him to recognize this, is empathy. If I could do it, then it could be done to someone else. It's the same reason that you know what being slapped in the face feels like, because you can slap yourself in the face and go like, okay, that's what that feels like. But you don't really know until you get actually slapped in the face. And that's part of why I had to go get punched in the face by somebody, because it's not quite the same. But people change. And Rudy standing there being proof of it, knowing it, and going like, well, I know that people can change. And then extrapolating that out to reflect upon all of the people in his life, all the bad people he meets. He has to frame his interactions with them from the perspective of they could change. And all the good people he meets, or anybody he meets, or the people who are in process of change, you might say, that he meets, he has to frame in the perspective of people can change. And people do change. People change. And people change. And Rudy's proof. And Eris is proof. And Ghislaine is proof. And everything as he's incorporated this idea, everything that he sees reinforces this proof to him. And it's part of what makes, well, it's part of why we say and we claim and we believe, and you dismiss this belief at your own great peril. We believe that there is something transcendently valuable about the human spirit, about a human life. And part of the reason is that no matter how bad that human is, they have the potential for change. Every human does, in every direction. And so, by removing their potential for the future, which is to say murdering them, or restraining them, or putting them in a cell, or taking away their rights, their abilities to make choices, you prevent them from being able to change, and you freeze them in time. And that might be the worst thing that you can do to someone, is to prevent them from being able to change. And what will happen is you will change them by doing it, and you won't change them in the right direction. People change. And so, whenever Rudy is faced with death, especially faced with being capable of causing it, for example, not that long ago, he and Ruijerd, well, Ruijerd swung the blade, right? Rudy was part and parcel to the process, slaughtered a whole group of bad folks, and Gallus included, right? Well, there's a problem with doing that. There's a problem with killing Gallus, and that is that even if he's proven himself to be awful, well, Rudy has been awful too, and he could change, so Gallus might have the chance to change as well. So how do you justify that death? Well, here's how you justify it. He was about to kill somebody else, specifically a child, and that child is worth more than he is, because the child is innocent, and the child has more life ahead of them, you might say, and more choices to make ahead of them, and more potential for change. And given how far Gallus is down the path of no return, if Gallus were to have a change of heart and say you start out in the middle, right? And then if you do bad things, you go this way toward the path of no return. If you do good things, you go Paragon and Renegade, right? Well, if Gallus goes all the way Renegade and he changes a little bit, that doesn't do that much all over. But the kid is right in the middle, and the kid could go all Paragon and make unquantifiable change in the future. So the kid is worth more than Gallus. So you kill Gallus 100% every time, no matter what. You do it. Because the system, you boil down the moral equation to the train track problem, which I have expressed before. You walk into a situation, you have no choice into walking into it. This is how the world presents itself to you, is you find yourself in a situation, you have to make choices regardless of how fair they are. Sorry. You walk into a situation, there's a train barreling down the tracks, the track splits, and the track is currently headed toward a child, and there's a lever, and if you pull the lever, the track would be headed toward an older person. It's currently headed toward the child. You walk into the situation, what do? You pull the lever. You pull the lever, and you condemn the older person to die. Every time. Every time. Always. Why? Well, because human children are worth more than human adults. Fundamentally. And for the same reason, humans are worth more than pigs, and humans are worth more than cows, and dogs, cows, pigs, dolphins, elephants, intelligent animal life in general, sheep, are worth more than snakes. Why? Because they have more capability for choices, and they have a longer lifespan. That's what indicates value, at least from one effective utilitarian framework of rights and justice. And that's how you can very easily justify killing and eating plants and animals, because it's like, well, I'm worth more than they are, and you are. You are transcendently valuable as a human, because your ability to choose is an order of magnitude dimensionally separated, as far as we can tell, from the lower animal life forms. It's really not insignificant that you are conscious. So, kill and eat animals, just do it. I mean, it's fine. It's really quite good for you, as far as I can tell. Now, that said, I might attempt veganism for a few months. Might try going plant-based and see how it goes. I worry that it'll really fuck up my brain for a little while, but that's just a fear and a worry. So I'll try it, and if I can try it and I find out that it actually does well for me, then that would be pretty interesting. And I'd be loath to dismiss something that seems to work for a lot of people, just because, I've got some presuppositions about the way that our ancestors consumed and ate fats. But I think you can justify killing animals that way, and I think you can justify killing or choosing certain lives over another. Even if there's something transcendent and infinite about the life of a human, you can also boil it down to the amount of life they have left to lead. And the truth is that people make this choice for themselves all the time. People run into burning buildings to save children. People strain to braking in order to lift cars off of kids. People die for their children all the time. And a lot of people do it consciously, daily, slowly, painfully. Like, there are a lot of people who don't need to work as hard as they do, but they work themselves into the grave in order to support their kids. And that's no less of a sacrifice, right? It's a complete sacrifice of self for the child. Why? Because the child's worth more than you. And in general, I think any child is worth more than any adult, mostly. Varying weird edge cases, obviously, but in general, the child has more possibility and potential to make choices. that's worth everything, it seems. But it comes back to this idea that people change. And so you have to be really careful when you judge and evaluate people, because you're judging them as they are, and you don't know where they came from, and you don't know where they're going. And until you figure those things out, it's really hard to judge them. But when you come into a circumstance like the one with Gallus, where you figure out where he's coming from, and where he's coming from is a monstrous, malicious place, and you figure out where he's going, and where he's going is chaining a bunch of kids up and selling them into slavery, well, you can figure out, and taking away a bunch of people's choices and killing them, you can figure out pretty quickly that that person shouldn't be allowed to do what they're doing anymore. And suddenly, because they're infringing upon the rights of others, they need to be removed from the system. And so it's utterly justified to kill them, even if there's a chance for their redemption, and there is. But it's not worth risking it. It's not worth risking their redemption, that chance, because they might cause way more harm in the interim. In fact, in Gallus's case, it's guaranteed that they will cause more harm in the interim. Excellent. Oshi. I find this episode's primary theme to be about the growth of people and how perspectives shift. This episode perfectly summed up by the goat Kaiki. That's from Monogatari, by the way. If you haven't seen Monogatari, it's a core myth, and you should go and watch all of it. You can go and watch it with me. Those are some old-ass reactions. I don't know how good they are anymore. I might have to go back through it again. I know that there's been a small clamoring for that kind of a watch-through, given my shift in perspective and, I don't know, growth into more adulthoodness. I don't know. Whatever the fuck is going on inside this person is novel and a little different. By this person, I mean behind these eyes. Whatever the fuck is going on here. I don't know. It's some next level integration that's happening, or disintegration and reintegration. I don't know. I find this episode's, summed up by the goat Kaiki. People aren't comic book characters. There's no human who is all bad. There's no human who is all evil. No one has the same personality when viewed from all angles, and no one has the same personality at all times. Correct. You are a multitude, and you're represented in a multitudinous set of ways. Pablo Picasso spent his entire life attempting to express that idea. And we just sort of take it as a fundament of our way of seeing the world. It's like, yeah, people are a bunch of different people. It's like, no, that's a big idea, man. That's like a big idea, because we used to represent it as gods, and the gods have sway over you, and it's like what you worship is what becomes you, and it's externalized from you. And there's some real evidence in something James, Origin of Consciousness and the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind. I need a copy of that, of the Bicameral Mind. Origin of Consciousness, yeah, that's exactly it, by Julian Jaynes. 512 pages. Fuck. The book I'll just read the Wikipedia summary because it's quite helpful, actually. The book addresses the problematic nature of consciousness, quote, the ability to introspect. So that is the thought that can think about itself, which is also represented really effectively in Gödel Bach, that book, because that represents it through art and math, and it's really quite valuable. But anyway, the ability to introspect, which in Jaynes' view must be distinguished from sensory awareness and other processes of cognition. So the consciousness loop is totally different from the experience loop. They're separate things. Like animals experience, but we think about our experience and think about the future and can manifest falsehoods. We can manifest potentials and generate full simulacrums of reality in which we can act safely before we choose how to act. And other animals, as far as we can tell, cannot do that. Like, really can't do it. It's magic. It's actually magic. Because you can... I mean, think about it. You can close your eyes and think about yourself as a billionaire. Just please do it. Please close your eyes and think about yourself with everything you've ever wanted and infinite power. Well, because you're capable of doing that inside your mind, you can evaluate everything that somebody who might have infinite power like you might do. Crazy. A total fantasy world that you can generate out of your depictions of reality. Incredible. Anyway, Jaynes presents his proposed solution that consciousness is a learned behavior based more on language and culture than on biology. I don't fully agree with that, by the way. I think it's both. It's socially structured, which is true because we know that children don't become effectively conscious if they're desocialized. We know this from Les Enfants Sauvages. Fuck my French, right? But children that we've found who are raised in, who grew up in nature, they're fucked. They're not conscious effectively because they haven't been socialized. It's a part of it. This solution, in turn, points to the origin of consciousness in ancient human history rather than in metaphysical or evolutionary processes. Furthermore, archaeological and historical evidence indicates that prior to the learning of consciousness, human mentality was what Janes called the bicameral mind, a mentality based on verbal hallucination, which is to say that Janes presents a thesis or a theory that the genius, the genius, the spirits and muses that our ancients talked about, the ancient Greeks and those before them, spoke very frequently about like God speaking to them, and that's how they know what to do. And Socrates was one of the things that he expressed repeatedly about himself, that he used as how he differentiated himself from other men, was he said that there was a voice inside his head that was essentially his conscience that told him what not to do, and he, unlike all other men, listened to it. And that's what made Socrates interesting or different. That's what made him stand out. So that's the idea, is that, well, maybe we had an actual literal inside consciousness, one mind and another, and we had a controlling mind that was just like God or a voice that comes over you and goes, go acquire food, my child. And you go, yes, God, I will go acquire food. You just go and do it. And so you got this command structure built in. And what we've got eventually is that the one side and the other side evaluate each other. And that creates a loop of self-evaluation that spirals into self-representation and spirals into the ability to manipulate the self. Because we get to turn, right? Okay, so if you close your eyes and you imagine your desk being clean, imagine it. Really think about it. Look at your desk in front of you. I bet it's not clean. Imagine it. Imagine if it were totally clean. Nothing on it except the things that you need on it. Boom. Wow. Okay, so you can use that process of imagination out on the world, but then you can do it to yourself. Imagine yourself as the kind of person who would be a successful romantic partner. The best kind of romantic partner you could be. You can evaluate yourself and use your imaginary side of your brain to represent yourself differently than you are. And so you can self-evaluate, and that spirals, boom. That's the Industrial Revolution inside your mind in terms of like humanity, or like life, consciousness. It's dimensionally different. It's novel. It's so interesting. Now, I don't know if James's view is correct. There are a bunch of things about it that are just wrong. There's lots of scholarly commentary. Well, it's influenced a lot of people and been a rather valuable idea. But there are some people who are solidly critics, which is pretty cool. Well, I mean, that's the whole process, is that we've externalized our idea criticism as well, right? So it used to be that, or it is and still is, that you come up with a thought and then you can evaluate the thought and be like, well, that's not a very good thought. Let's put that away. You know, if you have one of those thoughts when you stand at the edge of a tall building or something, and the thought is like, hey man, what if you just jumped? And you grab that thought and you're like, whoa, what if I don't actually? How about we evaluate that thought a little bit and we step back from the edge? But you can do that publicly and socially too. You can take your thoughts and put them out into the world, and then the social structure, you'll find people who disagree with you, and they'll evaluate for you. And so when you socialize and express those thoughts out into the world, it becomes even better. It becomes we delegate that process to everybody else. What a powerful thing! What a fascinating thing! And the thing that I am doing continuously, because I'm constantly stream of consciousness expressing my thoughts out to the world, and then a week later I get to come and I get to sit down for the comment spotlight and go through the thoughts that other people have about my thoughts. So I get to find that when I go on a diatribe about how this dang freaking Doldia village isn't a good representation of primitive societies, I get a few people who are arguing against it from pretty good perspectives. And so I expand my perspective because they're like sides arguing. James's version of that is that's happening inside your brain, and it's just you now because there's this layer that goes over top of it. But that's what's happening inside your brain mind. Fucking crazy cool. Okay, sorry, I'm jumping off of Oshi's comment. No one has the same personality when viewed from all angles, and no one has the same personality at all times. And that's fundamentally true because you are a multitude of different personalities. And I'll say this again, angry you is a totally different person from lustful you. Totally different person, totally different priorities, cares about different things, they're barely recognizable. I think we forget that at our peril. We like to think of ourselves as these ones, these isolated unities. And that is not the case for most people. It's actually a conscious process of becoming an isolated unity, because you don't start out that way. And that's integration of your brain. It's socio-psychological, it's social, psychological, and it's biological. It's all layers all together getting into alignment. Has to be done in order for you to functionally function as a multitude. Okay, one of my friends, my roommate, who is becoming my best friend, maybe he's already there, but I'll say becoming. I'm really trying to help him. To be clear, I've got two young roommates who are about my age. One of them is the father, and he's the one who grew up not thinking that he was very bright, and still believes that he's not very bright, and he's not quite right about that because he's not dumb, and he's capable of learning in different ways. It's just that the systems that have taught him have done a poor job by him, frankly. And so I'm helping him on those paths as much as I can, and as much as he can stomach. And it's working. In part, it's working because he's pushing back against me, and I love it. I love it. We got into a really solidly heated discussion the other day because I criticized him a little bit too much, and he got mad about it. He was like, "Man, it feels like you're always criticizing me." And he expressed himself. It was the most beautiful thing that I've seen. He was really frustrated, and we've had some fights before. And he's like blown up and the fight hasn't been resolved and he doesn't know how to resolve the thing. We don't come to a conclusion. And we tempered each other during this conversation. We got pretty heated and like eye to eye furious. And we held it in and we talked it through and we reached a conclusion, and it ended with him expressing exactly why he felt the way that he did, and it ended with me and him apologizing for the way that he had expressed it, and it ended with me expressing exactly why I was doing what I was doing and apologizing for the parts of it that were hurting him. And we came to a conclusion that was like mutualistic and was like, "Listen, man, we're doing this for a different reason, and sometimes you got to be able to tell me to hold back, right?" And we came to a negotiated boundary, effectively, is that's what my friend was capable of doing, and he's never done it in his entire life, is he effectively set out a boundary that was like, "Don't push me too hard, man. I'm working on it. And when you push me too hard, it makes me feel the way that my mom has made me feel, and that doesn't work for me," and I shut down. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm down to, let's vibe on that. But the most beautiful thing is that he would be incapable of doing that a year ago. And he's learned it. Amazing. Amazing. Learned to negotiate conflict in a useful and serious way. And we ended the night with a hug and then a serious set of conversations about some interesting things in our lives that were like really potent. And this serious fight that would have exploded and destroyed our relationship if we were not capable of handling it. We handled it, and we're better friends now. Rad. So cool. So that's one of my roommate friends. The other roommate friend is a smart young man who currently works a job that he has effectively automated, and he's making good money, but he's effectively automated it with macros. So he's doing work theft. And for a few months, he was like, work theft is exactly what you should be doing, and it's great. And I started to question him on it. I was like, how fulfilled do you feel? And we got to the root of it, and he was like, yeah, I feel miserable, and I'm going to die if I keep doing this. It's like, yeah, that seems about right. You feel like you're not producing anything because you're actually not, and everything that you spend your time on is you attempting to waste time as much as you can, and it just makes you more miserable because you're not fulfilled because you're not aiming toward any goal. And all that the work is doing is helping to keep you from dying, except that you're dying in the process. So we came to those conclusions together, which was interesting, and he's like, yeah, I need to figure something out. So we're going to figure something out, and it's going to go well. But he's talked to me a few times about his mental landscape and how he evaluates the world. And well, part of it, the thing that stood out to me initially, is that he's got some martial arts training, which I find quite interesting. And he talks about his monsters, and that there are like demons in his head, is how he's put it offhand or flippantly. And then he told me about how something happened when he was in young adolescence, like 12, 13, somewhere in there. And so after that, he's got this narrative that he tells himself, which is, as far as I can tell, it's true for him, as true as could be. So I'm not dismissing it in any way. But he's got this narrative that he tells himself that is he meditated every night for hours to put locks, a series of locks, psychological locks, on his violent tendencies. Because he views himself as having anger management issues. And we've talked it through, and I've recognized that this is because his mother is pathological and a monster, and his father didn't know how to deal with him. For example, one of the ways that he was in childhood that he was given as an outlet was his father didn't know what to do with his energy, and so he set up a heavy bag outside, and he just had him beat on it with a baseball bat to get his energy out. And that was his father's solution. And you can immediately, you see like the frustrated father who's at the end of the rope and doesn't know how to do anything and is too arrogant to go and reach out for help from a professional because his parents never reached out from a professional. And he tells stories that his parents, they read some books on child development, and then he showed up and he didn't fit what was going on in the books, so they threw away the books. It's like, well, those sound like some shitty books, dog. And maybe some shitty parents. So we talked this through, and this idea that he had of putting all these locks on his anger and his potential to cause harm immediately made my eyes go wide because I saw this in him, and I recognized it. And I recognized an unchained, because he thinks it's chained, but he hasn't incorporated it, an unchained shadow, a devil that he thinks he has a leash on and has it tight and restrained. But it's like when you see somebody walking around with a pit bull or like a big bulldog or a mastiff or something, like a Rottweiler, like a dangerous and frustrated and angry dog, and they've got it in a choker leash and the dog is just seething and has not been trained or effectively dealt with, right? And the dog is actually a monster. Because dogs that are poorly trained and poorly socialized, where you just beat them down until they don't bite you anymore, are actually monsters, and they're waiting for you to slip off your leash. And so that's what I fear for my friend, is that if he stays on this path and relies on his old locks, something's going to happen in his life that will break those gates. Because that's an old story, is that there are the defenders in front of the gates, and they're blind, and they can't see what comes through the gates, and they can't see that the gates are falling apart. It's actually the story in the shitty Thor, the Dark Thor with the ice people and the paths and stuff. Like that's the story is that there are these gates that represent the portals between different realms of being, and the gates that hold back malice and destruction are falling apart. They're not well maintained because everyone has ignored them, and so it creeps through. That's a good goddamn story right there, man. Like, that's a good story. There are stories about that in Korra, too, that, like, the stuff on the other side is being ignored, and so the balance is off, and the whole system is no longer in homeostasis, and that's a good story. So I worry for him because I recognize this lack of integration with the shadow. But the other night, we got pretty deep into a talk, and talking about his multitudes, his demons, his multiple voices, and he started to really express it to me, and it was very hard for him because, well, articulating your consciousness is like impossible. And something that he said to me was that when I go and I look into the mirror, I don't see me. And he asked me, what do you see when you look in the mirror? And I smiled at him. I looked him right in the eye, and I told him the absolute truth, which is that when I see my own image, and I'm looking at myself right now, I'm looking at my own camera right now. When I see my own image, I see only one person, and it's me. All of it. The monkey and the monster and the genius, the beauty and the horror, the capacity for malice and destruction, the capacity for growth and change. I see it all in my own eyes, and it's all me, and I identify with all of it. And so I control all of it because I know what I am. And what I am is someone who doesn't know what he is. Okay? That's really the representation that works, is that you're not whole. I'm whole because I know that I'm not. And that's the strange loop, Gödel-Escher-Bachian strange loop. It's the system of axiomatic representation that cannot contain itself necessarily. That the Principia Mathematica cannot contain the Principia Mathematica, except insofar as it demonstrates the fractal pattern that represents the Principia Mathematica. Complicated idea. But if you can identify yourself with the thing that is not identified with self, and that is this shifting multitude, you can befriend it and incorporate it and actually become all of it together. And you can have your rational side and your emotional side, instead of being separate and at war, and one takes over and then the other takes over, you can have both in unison firing together, and you can be rationally furious, and you can use your rationality to alter your fury and to direct it in a way that you can't otherwise. And this is what you teach kids when you do good child developmental processes as recommended by the whole brain child. You're literally integrating parts of them, their left brain with their right brain, left brain with right brain, and their upper rational brain with their deeper emotional brain. You're integrating the segments so that it can all talk to itself, and so that it's all sort of one thing that's like a little bit balanced out. You don't let one part go wild and the other part get repressed, because what happens when, well, people become out of balance, really and truly out of balance. But I looked him in the eye and I told him exactly the truth, which is that when I look myself in the eye, I see me, and that it was not always so. Especially on drugs, especially on psychedelics, because I've been using and I want to be clear about this. I've used psychedelics for, well, let's see, I'm 28 now. My first experience with psychedelics, I don't even remember what my first experience truly was. I think it was mushrooms. I think it was mushrooms during a summer when I was working at a law library, because I was living alone and I had nothing else to do. And I believe that's what I did, was that I had access to the dark web and I purchased some magic mushrooms and some other things. And I experimented. But it might have been earlier than that. It might have been before that. I don't fully remember. But I will say that I've been using them for quite a while. And so, people have been like, well, the channel sure has changed after the acid trip. It's like, you have no idea, man. The channel was built after acid trips. That's the start of the whole thing, man. It's like, it's been a part of the thing from the beginning. I just haven't been as honest about it. I think I got my hands on some LSD at some point. I think it was before I reacted to Symphogear, but I don't remember exactly when it was. I could go back through and judge myself, and I'd probably be able to find where it was that was happening. But it might have just been before I started. It's all a little fuzzy, because time gets weird when you do the same things every day. It all gets sort of compressed. It's novelty of experience that seems to fill out time. So I don't know. But when I used to use that substance and I would go and look at myself in a mirror, I would see a seething multitude in the mirror, in the eyes. And in the face. And the face was a face that I didn't vibe with and didn't represent. And it has been since I locked my identity into place. My masculine identity, my maleness, and also my feminine identity, my feminineness, my femaleness. Locking those into place in a like 51-49 sort of harmony, because that's like sort of where they are. I'm like 60-40 or something. It's like, it's pretty close. I'm not an extraordinarily masculine man, even though I identify as man now. Not extraordinarily masculine. But I'm becoming more so as I've identified with it, which is interesting. Like, my physicality is arranging itself as such, and as far as I can tell, my overall testosterone level is up, because I don't have any other explanation for why I'm gaining muscle mass and losing fat at the same time. Because that's something that, as far as I know, is only possible when you have really high endogenous testosterone or exogenous testosterone. And I can promise you that I haven't been injecting test or taking any testosterone boosters or anything, right? I've been doing cold showers, eating good food, and sleeping more. And my test is like up, and I'm gaining muscle mass while losing weight. Impossible. Genuinely an impossible thing unless you're on steroids. And my body's on natural fucking roids right now, man. It's awesome. It feels amazing.
I feel amazing. Wonderful. The power's coursing through me.
And again, I swear I'm not taking anything. I swear, no PEDs. And I'll run through everything, all the supplements that I take if people care. And it's too many because I'm constantly experimenting with them, but I'll run through them if you'd like. It's fascinating. But when I locked all my identity in, that person in the mirror ceased to be a separate person from me, and it's just me. When I told my friend this, his eyes went wide. Because I don't think he believed it was possible. And I don't think he believed that anybody else had had anything like the experience that he had of being multiple people or feeling like he was multiple people. You know, we read about people with fractured personalities, and they're totally different from a normal person. You know, they're monsters or psychopaths, or the character from Psycho who's like, his mother is living inside him, and are all these pathologies and whatever. And so you look at those and you're like, well, then I must be insane. And nobody ever took him and said, hey, my guy, you're not actually insane. If normal is here and the edges of the spectrum are here, you're like here. You're well within a standard deviation of normalcy. I mean, you got a job and you have a girlfriend and you're capable of socializing and making friends, and you can read and you can do math, and you haven't killed anybody and you haven't killed yourself. You're kind of holding together. And you don't have a massive eating disorder or any primary addictions, so you haven't torn yourself apart completely. Seems like you're within maybe a standard deviation of normal. And maybe the fluctuating depression and anxiety and horribleness of life and the general suffering is maybe the normal suffering. It's maybe not the most unique suffering in the world. That's a damn harsh thing to say to somebody, is to sort of tell them, like, you're not actually a unique, special individual who is different from everybody. You are slightly different from everybody, but in a way that we can recognize. But once you get over that arrogance of being like, no, I'm so special, you can go, wait, so you mean that thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, billions of people have been through the same thing that I have, and some of them have figured it out effectively, and some of them have written down what they did to figure it out, and I might be able to learn from it, and so there's hope for me? Oh, good. Oh, thank God. I'm not a monster. And that's exactly it. You are a monster. But that doesn't make you a monster. It just makes you human. And you can learn through story and many other things what human means. And what I think human means is half devil, half man, tears. I still think Crybaby is just like, oh, it's perfect. Or, you know, you could say it as like, the human is the person who realizes their own depravity, like Rudius, dies insofar as they give it up in order to make some transcendent sacrifice, like sacrifice of the whole self in order to do something worthwhile, and then is reborn as a new being, because you are when you do that, when you sacrifice of yourself and you die, you're reborn as a new being, and that new being is capable of reshaping the world as if by magic, but only if they speak the truth. That's another pretty good depiction, and so that's the one that we're working in right now, and it's a solid framing device for figuring your shit out. And so there's a reason that millions and millions of young men have, and I say young men because the number of people who are young men who identify with Rudius and Mushoku Tensei are like all of them, and the number who are young women are very different. We can talk about feminine myths soon. I'm still investigating that side of things. It's really interesting. But that's the framework that we're in, and it's correct. And Oshi does a great job here, to bring it back to the comment that we started with, of tying that to the goat Kaiki, who, of course, through Nisio Isin's genuine genius, because Nisio Isin is a transcendent genius. Fucking brilliant monster. No one has the same personality when viewed from all angles, and no one has the same personality at all times. But you can strive to. You can strive to be internally and externally consistent in your beliefs, actions, mannerisms, way of being. You can strive to stack it all on top of each other, right? And to embody the things that you say. So if I say people should clean their desks. Well, I should clean my fucking desk and embody it and stack it all up. And then maybe I would be the same person when I'm saying everyone should clean their desks, and when I'm having a clean desk, it's all in line. There's no dishonesty in it. And there is dishonesty in it because my desk is kind of a mess again. I'm really bad at this. It's the ADHD pile thing, as far as I've learned recently, is that I just put stuff in places, and it's hard. Habits are hard. They're so worth it. Okay, I'm going to move on through the rest of the comment. However, I also think this is the standout point that highlights the development of Eris we see inside of her. I liked tsundere characters generally, but when she was first introduced, even I found her to be a little over the top and too aggressive to be well liked. Potential for sure, that's how it goes, but this is the episode for me where she really starts to come into her own. Previously chipping away at that viewpoint through their adventures and her opening up and taking a liking to Rudy and how much her own perspective has changed. She's given the light of being motherly to these girls, bingo, watching over them and protecting them while the Doldio were slaughtering the smugglers, and then she goes on to be a teacher and a beacon of light to Tona here when it comes to learning the sword, developing as a person, and being given someone to help push her in the right direction. A little over the top and too aggressive to be well-liked is exactly how Eris is, and that's exactly how everybody in her world sees her, except for her overly doting grandfather. Except for the grandfather, everybody sees her this way. Like, we see that in the actions of everybody around her are like, somebody needs to get this girl in line, somebody needs to put her in check, but she's spoiled by the grandfather, right? And that's part of the whole, like, hey, Rudy, you should go and do a thing with the girl. Some fucked up layers of stuff, but that's part of it, is like, somebody control this person. Somebody put them in line. Somebody show them the way. And it's exactly correct, is that, well, she's an archetypal representation of the unrestrained child in many ways. And, well, a chaotic child should be restrained. But not by a choke collar, right? That comes back to the angry pit bull who will slip the leash, not by force, by convincing, by showing them what that restraint can do in the world, by giving them the opportunity to make choices that have real consequences. And that's what Eris has done. And the specific choice that she's given that makes real consequences are the ones that have to do with helping or harming others. And she chooses to help them, and it has specific consequences. And that's what we see over the course of the episode, and that's pretty fucking good. Okay, unfortunately, I don't know exactly which story EC is referring to in this comment, but I'll read the comment anyway because it's still useful. EC, if you want to hit me up and let me know exactly which story you're talking about, I'd find that helpful. EC writes, I really like the story you told and how it relates to Ghislaine's story. There's a lot of resonance with the themes of the show. This episode re-emphasizing the importance of changing environment/relationships in order to make changes really drives home how much the others have changed, and in just as radical ways as Rudy's has too. It was nice seeing Rudy take a more mature role throughout the episode, after he was caught perving, of course. Right, it's not the one without the other. You know, you become more mature, and you get a better relationship toward women, as I think I have over the last period. But I'm honestly no less lecherous or perverted or horny. Just have a better relationship to those parts of me. and in part, I'm not trying to squeeze them and push them away, which causes them to leak out the sides in all sorts of not correct ways when you try to repress like that. So, of course, he's still perving. But he is growing, too. And the one and the other are together. And people always complain about that in terms of Mushoku Tensei. It's a pretty common response, is that, well, Rudy never learns anything and never changes. It's like, so you want him to just sublimate his entire sex drive and become an asexual blob? Is that the answer? I think that's not the answer. The answer is to incorporate and figure out how to handle his sexuality without causing harm. How about that? How about identifying with your sexuality in a way that's helpful, where you don't have to repress it because it's good? How about that as a broad manifestation? Sexuality, and I'm going to be more specific, male sexuality is good. It's not evil. How about that? Because we do a lot of framing in social discourse around the male gaze and male sexuality as evil and wrong. How dare you? How dare you objectify women, or men, or anything? I dare. I absolutely dare. Seems like there are a lot of people out there who would really like to be wanted. And it seems like actively and honestly demonstrating your want for people, whether that's want to have them around or want to have sex with them or want to know them and understand them, like reach out and touch your vulnerable soul to their soul, it seems like people could benefit from some more of that. And I think that's part and parcel to desire and libido and life energy and sexual libido as well. So that's my framing is, well, maybe sexuality is good and maybe stamping it out isn't the move. In any case, the experience of being made to practice things or made to learn moral lessons is one I think many can relate to, forcefully. For me, this and the angry, violent style of parenting was something that for a very long time ruined my relationship with both music and exercise. In hindsight, I realize how bad this was and how much it set me back. It's a tough lesson to have to go through. I don't have any kids, but when I do, parenting such that I can encourage their interests and also teach them important life lessons effectively is something of primary importance, and good on you. And you'll fail a bunch. Be kind to yourself when you do. Because you'll find yourself reliving some of the traumatic experiences that your parents inflicted upon you and regenerating them. And you can't hate yourself for doing that all the time, but you can be wary of it and weed it out when you can. And seeking help, admitting that you don't know how to do the thing is in large part the solution. Because if and when you have kids, you're going to have this part of your brain that goes, I know what to do. I know how to kids. I know how to parents. And you don't. And you just don't. And nobody does because it's the most difficult, complicated thing in the entire world. But there have been thousands and millions and billions of people who've had the exact same problem as before. In fact, you can imagine that there are 8 billion people on the planet, and every single one of them had 2 parents who tried and to some degree succeeded because the person is still alive. So you imagine that some fraction of them wrote down or shared or made videos about some portions of their experience. And you can imagine that some of the better critics and sociologists and thinkers have gathered some of that information over time and come up with some basic frameworks for what you should and should not do in order to raise a child. And it would behoove you to go out and seek those frameworks and steal them as much as you can, and steal them now when you're young, before you are in the lockstep of having the child actually, right? So that you can plan out what the fuck to do. Could be really helpful. Ruined my relationship with both music and exercise. Yeah, that's really big. Forcing kids to do those things can really destroy them. Or, as has been in my case, in some way indicating that what they're doing is wrong is really harmful. And again, I think I might have told this story, but I used to be really in touch with clay. I used to do a lot with clay and shaping clay, and something happened and I stopped doing it. And I think it was something, I think my father must have said something. It must have been something like, oh, you're working on this but not doing your chores, or something offhand like that, that embedded itself in my brain and became part of the representation of clay as art and art as expression is not the thing to do. And that's the opposite of what I should have learned. And, well, I was a child, so it's my father's fault for fucking it up. And I forgive him for it, because I've relearned it as I've grown. But it's a constant process, and it's a wall that I have to struggle up against. So good on you for recognizing that you can try to improve. On the topic of the tribespeople, the way I interpreted what the chief said was that people die in the floodwaters, and with Rudyard's superhuman strength, they were able to prevent many such incidents, apparently all of them. Nevertheless, they do seem to be living in quite easy circumstances compared to an actual jungle or forest. I wonder if in the books there's more elaboration on the topic. First off, I guarantee that there's more elaboration on the topic because people have come at me in the Discord and elsewhere and been like, there's more elaboration on the topic. Don't judge the thing based on the thing. It's like, well, I judged it based on what I have in front of me, and what I have in front of me is not a great depiction of primitive societies or the difficulties of living in the jungle. I mean, just go try to live in the jungle, man. Like, really. Hell, fuck a jungle. Go try to live at a campsite. like a human-built campsite where you can walk over to a toilet and shit in a toilet, or at least a hole in the ground, and there's running water and access to electricity in a central building. Go buy a tent, buy a sleeping bag, go try to live in at a campsite in a developed country, a quality campsite for a week. It's gonna be hard as shit, and you're gonna get bug bites. And if you didn't have access to healthcare, you might cut yourself on a rock and get gangrene and die. Have fun in the jungle, man. Fuck off. Stay in your house. Or become an explorer. And if you're an explorer, well then, and if you're attuned to those things and you want to go live out in them, nice. But maybe be careful about your depictions of societies as being like, we're all happy and healthy out here in the woods. And our hair is beautiful, and all our women are gorgeous, and all our men are hunky, and everybody's fucking dope and fucking awesome, and the kids are all happy, and they have nothing to do all day except play and assist in the gathering of overabundant fruit and fish. It's like, no, that's not it. How about breaking apart dead trees in order to find grubs and going, oh, because maybe Jimmy over there might steal your goddamn grubs. And you'd have to kill him if he did. You don't really want to kill Jimmy. God, it's so hard to live in the wild. Ugh. Anyway, yes, the floodwaters thing makes good sense. Topotu. Man, am I excited for the discussions from the next 2 episodes. I remember the 2 from Psyculturist were 6 hours long. Yeah, so that's the issue here, is that we're already moving past an hour, and we're moving toward the point where I can't even do like an hour and a half on either of the episodes, or both of them. I can't do it, so there's no chance. There's no chance that I should try to tackle this big-ass dragon, and it'll be a fun dragon, and it's a dragon that I can fight, and I'm happy to do so, and I'm pleased and ready, okay? Ready and raring to go. I've got my shit in order, I've got my armor on, I've got my sword out, I've got my shield and my horse, and I'm ready to go march out and fight the dragon. I'm down. But it's a big fucking dragon, and so I'd like to set it aside for like a Saturday, so that I have all day to fight the dragon, just in case it takes too long. Just in case it takes too long, I don't want to have a date with the princess on the same day as the dragon slaying, because I've got a date with the princess. I'm actually really hoping that I see a particular girl at the gym and can go up to her and ask her out, because that's what I'd like to do as a goal for today. And now I've fucked myself because I've said that I want to do it, and so if I get the opportunity to do it and I don't do it, then I'm a liar. Fuck. Shit. Oh no. That's okay. Here's the bar. I actually set the bar for myself before, which is that the next time I see her, I need to know her name. We've spoken once and had a couple of goofy eye contact moments as well, which were very cute. I've just been acting like an absolute fool, and it's a lot of fun to act like a total fool for a beautiful woman and just be like, hi. And she fully knows exactly what I'm doing, but it's great. Anyway, I have a sort of a date with a princess in a way, it's like there's a thing that's going on, and a lot of my brain is being taken up by it, and it'll go away once I cross that bridge, but we'll see if I can cross that bridge even. She wasn't there on Monday, so that was unfortunate, and there was a moment of like, oh. But because again, it's like the girl before, it's like it's the not knowing that really tears me up. It's the uncertainty. Once I step into the unknown and step into the danger zone, or into the dragon's lair, if you will, there's nothing to it, right? The dragon's awake, the sword is out, we're gonna fight, all right, we're going, and all the systems take over. But man, the process of thinking about it and just stewing, like, I don't know, what's gonna happen? And just sort of evaluating, be like, I wonder if there's a dragon in that cave over there. I wonder if the dragon's got any gold. I wonder if it's big enough to eat me. I don't know. Anyway, weird representations. But today's not the day. Today's not the day to do 2 episodes of Mushoku Tensei back to back. It's just not the day. Even though I have everything else in order, it's not the day. Supervirus 001. Yay, new episode. BTW, I don't think you should separate the comment spotlight from the bulk of the discussion. I find the ideas that everyone puts on the table makes the discussion on the video have a lot more facets, and separating them from the discussion part could weaken it a little bit. Actually, a lot, I think. I think it might weaken it a lot, because I actually think that this process of speaking in the discussion portion really primes me for the next episode in multifarious ways. And one of the ways is that there's speaking momentum, speech momentum. Shoot, I'm never gonna be able to find it. Yeah, I don't know where it is. It's a portion. It's a Huberman moment. So, a neurobiologist or neuroscientist at Stanford who runs a podcast for sharing science stuff with people. And there's one portion, I think he might have been talking to Chris Williamson, he might have been talking to any number of people, but they were discussing speaking and the process of speaking. In fact, I know that it was Chris Williamson. Okay, then maybe I can find it. Hold on. Yeah, I got no clue. It might have been during Eddie Chang's. I forget. It doesn't really matter. I'll just summarize to you and condense and paraphrase as best as I can. They were speaking about the process of podcasting, and what both of them had noticed is that as you speak, you gain more momentum in speaking. You know, most things tire you out. If you run for a while, you get fucking tired. Well, kind of. If you run for long enough, you get into a trance, actually. You get a near spiritual experience as you continue running. We're really well optimized to keep running for long distances, and our brain has methods of taking us away from the pain of doing so that we can keep doing so. Probably because it's evolutionarily adaptive to be able to run long distances without falling apart. But if you go and you lift weights for a long time, you stop being able to do it. And if you go and you jerk off for a long time, you stop being able to do it. And the same is true of most things. You eat enough for a long time and you stop being able to, and you drink a bunch of water and it kills you. And you do things over and over and over and over for a long time, and you get bored or upset or just fall apart and lose power. But speech isn't quite like that, at least for a long time. As you speak, you seem to warm up. And as you read, it seems to be the same way. You get more acute and more capable of reading. And so the theory that they had of what's going on is that as you're speaking, you're literally evaluating your speech as you're speaking, and you have to be able to hear yourself speak in order to speak. It's why if you take your own speech and you monitor it with a few milliseconds of delay, you literally cannot speak. It's like, it's impossible to... Well, let me see if I can find an app. Inhibits user from speaking in coherent sentences. Perfect. So I'll pull this up and I'll try to make it work. I'll see if it works. Unfortunately, I can't find one. There was an old owl who lived on an oak tree. Every day he observed incidents that also occurred around him. Yesterday he watched as a young boy helped an old man carry a heavy basket. Today he saw a young girl shouting at her mother. The more he saw, the less he spoke. As the days went on, he spoke less but heard more. The old owl So that's not a bad one. This one works a little bit. It's not great. It's not great at doing it. I can really get it if I go into my video processing app and I turn on the digital monitoring. Okay, so I think you can't hear the delay, but I can hear the delay, and the delay is actually preventing me from speaking effectively. So I'm just going to try to read something really quickly. Mages spend their lives in the study and practice of magic. Good aligned mages offer counsel to nobles and others in power. Evil mages dwell in isolated sites to perform unspeakable experiments without interference. This is really difficult. It actually genuinely fucks my ability to speak these words out. It's because you're trying to evaluate your speech as you speak, and that it's off makes it oh, I should turn off the double direct monitoring. That actually makes it worse. Oh my god, that's way worse. I'm not doing this intentionally, I promise. It's because I can hear myself at the wrong rate. It makes it extremely difficult to monitor what I'm saying and effectively continue speaking. Yeah. Because I've already got monitoring through my headphones, and it's instant, it's analog, it's speed of light, essentially, right? I hear myself, my voice perfectly, and it lines up perfectly with the voice that I hear through my jawbone and through resonance and through actually hearing yourself, right? But the idea is that what you're doing when you're speaking is that you're constantly evaluating your own speech. And this is why deaf people have an immensely hard time speaking, is because speech is the process of self-evaluation of speech. You hear yourself speak and you alter your speech patterns in real time continuously to fulfill what you're attempting to say. And that's the process that it goes under. It's really interesting. But the idea is that, well, if it's a self-fulfilling process, then as you do more of it, you will get better at it because you're oscillating into the best process of speaking that you can get. And so I think that what you've said about the comment spotlights contributing significantly to the discussions is far more true than you know, is that it actually strengthens my ability to discuss in general, to be speaking beforehand. And this is part of the impetus for doing the Daily Brew too, because even before sitting down here for the comments discussion, I recorded like an hour-long video already today. And then I went and I took a cold shower, and then I came back and I started recording this. And I think you'll notice that when I got going immediately, I was going at a level of verbal acuity in the beginning of this video that is beyond the level of verbal acuity that you will find in the first episodes of Mushoku Tensei, because I wasn't doing the Daily Brew before that. That's an interesting thing. I don't know. Anyway, I don't think that I will separate out the comment spotlights. It's a bad idea. So, good comment, and I will not. THUR. I've always argued that greed isn't always a bad trait, precisely because it leads directly to altruism. Oh yeah, if it were if greed were not evolutionarily viable, then we wouldn't have it. If it weren't a reflection of something necessary, we wouldn't have it, and it's obviously optimal, right? Greed is the thing where you go into forest and you go, ooh, banana, and you go, I want, and so you take it. And then, well, the fact that you took it means that you can eat, and then your eating makes you survive longer. But what we call greed is, ooh, all banana, my banana. No banana for you. And that's the flawed extension of the thing. And that's the way all things are, isn't it? Is that, like, well, lust is a pretty useful trait, right? It's what leads us to do the weird thing where we are capable of dealing with another dirty, stinky, sweaty, smelly, disgusting human being for long enough to copulate. Because that's basically what it is. It's like there's this horrifying monster over there that you're attracted to for some reason, and you're attracted enough to them that you'll sacrifice of yourself and change your behaviors in order to accommodate them. And the two of you can get along long enough to make a child, and then maybe if you do it really well, you might be able to get along long enough to raise the child so that they become a potentially successful individual themselves. But if it goes too far, it becomes a sin, you might say. It misses the mark. So where's the mark? The mark is in the middle. So where's the mark? The mark is balance. So where's the mark? The mark is at the center of the yin and the yang. And it recognizes that there's part in both. That there's greed in asceticism, and that there's asceticism in greed, and that you need a balance in the middle. I think FMAB actually portrayed this very well. I agree. I think FMAB's portrayal of greed is pretty interesting. It's also quite interesting that most of the other sins don't live. Lust is burned away, envy gets turned into a little worm, that it becomes subjugated. Most of the sins don't live on, but greed fully does, because it shifts from one host to another host. And it is sublimated by ambition, you might say. Because Ling he takes greed into himself for the purposes of altruistic ambition for his people. That's a good representation and a good story, and that's why we're going to watch FMAB soon. Because we're going to watch all of FMAB again soon, and I've seen it like 4 times, and we're going to go deep, baby, deep into that show. Ooh. Ooh. All right, I think FMAB actually portrayed this very well. In order to gain the world, you must be willing to give it. Yes, for if you give, you will receive, and that's a very Judeo-Christian idea. or at least a Christian idea. The Judaic elements are they represent sacrifice a lot, and they didn't figure out all of the representations, and we got better at it, and it's been working okay. For if you give, you will receive. Cast your bread upon the waters, and it will be returned to you sevenfold. Well, what a silly idea. That doesn't make any sense. How would that work? Well, it's odd, but it works. It's because social structures are more powerful than you. And the ability of you to gather all banana in forest, my banana. Nobody else banana. Well, first off, they're going to kill you for your bananas. And second off, people starving ain't going to be great for banana production in general, or for finding more bananas. So what you could do is, if you took all the bananas from the forest, and you divvied them up between everybody relatively fairly, and you said, everybody, go hunt more banana. Go seek more banana in world. Then, after seeking, come back, get banana to live. Okay. Basic, universal banana income. Everyone get 1 banana a day. 1 banana a day, enough for living. Use 1 banana a day to fuel body so can go out into forest and find more banana. Well, what would happen to the tribe? You'd find a bunch of bananas. You'd find like 30 patches of bananas all over the place, and all your members would come back and be like, oh, me find banana over there. And you'd be like, oh, cool, have 1 banana. Show me where banana are. Oh, banana are here. Let us delegate more banana to whole tribe. Whole tribe now get 2 banana a day. Become strong. I love Ugbug and I love Banana Monkey as great representations of stupid humanity. It's so useful. Ugbug the Barbarian is just so fucking useful. The Ugbug the Caveman. They're just like, Ugbug want mate. Ugbug have big club. Ugbug make fire. Ugbug eat mammoth. Ugbug share a little bit of mammoth with girl to see if girl will keep Ugbug warm. It's like, yeah, man. Yeah, Ugbug, get it. Get it, bro. Get it. All right, anyway. For if you give, you will receive. Banana. Greed is a sin only when it lacks foresight. For that greed only takes. But greed paired with enough foresight is one of the greatest virtues a person can have. Foresight and the recognition that you are not an island. Because people greed for themselves, and then they greed for their family, and what you can do is you can externalize that. You greed not for yourself, not for your family, not for your racial or cultural identity, not for your nation, but for all of humanity, perhaps. What if you were greedy for everyone? So you look at your tribe and you go, tribe need more banana, so tribe grow strong. And tribe include all, because all are one and all deserve banana. That sounds like some good fucking greed to me. I'd love to be greedy in that nature. I'm real greedy for preventing people from starving. Real into that. I have a deep-seated desire, a greed, you might say, to show people that they can turn their bodies into something worth living in. Something worth piloting around in this weird world. That's a good thing to be greedy for. Paired with enough foresight is one of the greatest virtues. Yeah. This pairs well with the Demon Eye narrative. Rudy gaining foresight. Yes. Rudy is greedy. Yes. He wants more than he can handle and he lets people die for it. Correct. Yet, as soon as he gains foresight, he begins to act altruistic. Curious. Right, he begins to plan for himself and others. Because the future is here and the future is coming and he's got a bunch of power. He's got to choose what to do with it. On an unrelated note, and yet a still related note, I regularly hear this talk about humans attempting to remove themselves from nature, but aren't humans themselves a part of nature? Yes, we draw a bright line between like concrete and forests, and there's no bright line actually. But there is an issue, which is that we tear down forests at our peril because our greed doesn't include the recognition of how important those things really are. And we greed for, say, almonds. This is a big thing. We're tearing apart forests for almond production. Why? Because almonds require a large quantity of land and a lot of water. Like, almonds are really good food. They're really dense and they're really popular for a lot of reasons. They're highly nutritious. But they require an exorbitantly high intake of water and nutrients in order to produce that nutritious density. And so we're tearing apart massive ecosystems that help support the long-term health of the planet and the long-term ability to grow anything in order to make more almonds because we're greedy for almonds. And that ain't it, Chief, you know? But aren't humans themselves a part of nature? Yes. This is likely due to a disagreement on what nature really means. Yes, absolutely. It's a definitional issue. Where's the bright line between nature and not nature? Because, well, a city is nature too. It's just not natural nature. It's man-made nature. And is that less justified? I don't know. It feels very similar to the concept that humans are distinct from animals, or that animals are somehow lower than humans. I actually think that that's completely true. We're conscious, they're not. Simple. That simply isn't the case. Humans are animals. Oh yeah, 100%. Like, it's part of the same great cosmic chain of being, but it's on the dimension of difference of saying that eukaryotic multicellular organisms are the same as unicellular organisms, and it's like, that's not true. They contain the same elements, but they're not the same at all. The ability to generate complexity by a conscious mind, which as far as we can tell is only humans, as far as we can tell. The monkeys that we get that are closest aren't there. The great apes aren't there. They're close, but they're not there. And as far as we can tell, dolphins aren't quite conscious either. They're close, but they're not quite there. And elephants either, although elephants are very close. And maybe if they had better expressive tools, they would be closer still. But I think part of it is that elephants aren't precisely omnivorous. They're not hunters, and so they don't have hunting and prey mentalities together, and we do, and that's really powerful. And dolphins, similarly, are more predator. They're socialized predators, and they're not as much gatherers, really. They hunt, really. And so there's something missing in both of those that humans aren't missing. We are hunters and gatherers, and then we are agriculturalists because we develop consciousness, which is crazy. That simply isn't the case. Humans are animals. True. Bees know how to make beehives, and they do that quite regularly. Similarly, humans know how to build houses and use tools. Well, we've learned. How are these two different? Well, if you take a natural group of bees, and you don't do anything to them, and you don't teach them anything, they'll build beehives on their own. If you take a bunch of humans and you don't teach them anything, they don't know how to build houses, because we've passed it down culturally. So we've got this whole external set of representations that we pass down that are different, right? And we know that because if you can find wild bees, and you can't find wild humans that act like humans. They act like animals. And so some of it is sociologically constructed, or socially constructed. How are these two different? That's how. If a beehive, anthill, or beaver dam is considered nature, then why are cities not? Because they're different. Beavers don't think about building dams. They just do it instinctually, and it's different. There's a difference. Now, I'm not entirely sure about exactly where to pin that difference, so forgive me for not doing it perfectly, but I do think there is one, and I think you're right. I think you're right, but I also think it's not complete. How can we call technology unnatural if it was developed by a part of nature? It seems to be separate. It seems to be anything that is magical manifestation of the conscious mind is something separate, and everything else seems to be emergent. But your argument that what humans create, even if it is destructive toward nature, is itself a functional part of nature, that's true. But also, there's a pretty clear distinction. When you walk into a forest, it's a very different place than when you walk into a city. Very different in every possible way. And the answer is because living things own the one, and structures own the other. The city is bigger than you, and you're not really a part of it. It's bigger than you. The forest you can be a part of. Oh, at least deer can. Maybe humans can't anymore. And that's where we find ourselves, is having discovered our own vulnerability and our future, we are cast out of the garden. And we find ourselves vulnerable, and we cover ourselves with clothing and culture in order to stave off the vulnerability as armor. And so we have been cast from nature by our own recognition of our own consciousness of self. Our own literal self-consciousness has cast us out of the garden of unknowingness, literally by eating the tree of good and evil. And that's represented as being delivered to woman by snake, which is psychologically, as far as we can tell, evolutionarily correct, because it is our pattern recognition systems that we use for recognizing predators and differentiating them from fruits and food So it's the knowledge of good and evil in the fact of the fruit, in the ability to see and to see color, and the knowledge of good and evil in the ability to represent snake and see that snake is different from stick, and to use that pattern recognition system to evaluate all threats and all unknowns. That is the thing that allowed us to recognize our own vulnerability and our vulnerability in the future. And the fact that if I eat all the banana today, I won't have banana tomorrow. And if I don't have banana tomorrow, I'll starve. And so I have to do something about the banana fields and the banana production. And I have to start building now. I have to start building clothing now. And I have to start building some method of food gathering that works sustainably now. And I have to start building it into my society, and I have to start teaching my friends about it, and I have to start making wall paintings that say banana that way. Kill bear, get more banana, right? Like that's what our ancient wall paintings say, is like there are elk this way. You kill them and then have fire and then more people, is like what our basic, like oldest cave paintings say. Stories, the basic stories about we're vulnerable, here's how you deal with it. Build. It's both. I don't know. We are definitely separated from nature in many ways, and we separate ourselves as much as we can in many ways from nature, except when we can confine it and control it. And then we like to go out into it and venture into it and get in tune with ourselves and our ancientness, because we vibe in nature too. So it's, I don't know. And your last sentence is perfect. I don't have a strong grasp on why I believe these things about humanity and nature, so I'd love to discuss further if anyone is interested. I'm interested. Keep discussing. Good comment, Aether. We got a comment from Julian Alberto Arce Sanchez. Actually, I think if people lived in a lot of abundance like in this village, there would be no reason to innovate and create new things. Necessity is the mother of invention. For most of our history, people were hunter-gatherers, and that was more than enough in most places of the world. The people who had a harder time were the ones who started to figure out agriculture and all that jazz. And now we innovate constantly because this ride needs to go faster and faster every day. This is the opposite of what is true, and I said as much in a comment because this is the opposite of what is true. A hunter-gatherer life was never more than enough. It was nasty, brutish, and short. It was always closer to barely surviving, and it is those of us who had an easier time who were capable of inventing agriculture. That is why the birthplace of civilization, as far as we can tell, not the birthplace of mankind, which is in Africa, but the birthplace of civilization is the rich, easy, fertile lands of Mesopotamia, where there's lots of water and lots of plant growth and lots of wonderfully, easily arable, abundant land that grows lots of oases of fruit and stuff. That's where we innovated, was where we had enough. Why? Because if you are, well, you know this effectively, the people who are living paycheck to paycheck ain't fucking innovating. And they're not pursuing their art full time either. They're living paycheck to paycheck, and they're forced to, and they're stuck, and they don't have time to go to school because they'll die. And you can imagine that people have been living banana to banana, and you walk for 3 days until you find another banana, so that you can walk for 4 days to find another banana. We lived like that for a long time. And while you're walking to find a banana, you're not thinking about much other than, gosh, I wish I had a banana. You're not thinking about the potential for planting banana trees or innovating. We innovate so quickly now. The reason we innovate so quickly now is because we aren't completely enslaved by our demons of hunger and cold. We're protected, and so we can think. And the same was true of our ancestors once they had fire and cooking, because they could cook meat, and meat became extremely nutritiously dense once it's cooked. And so you can, if you kill a big animal, everyone in your tribe can sit around for a while and survive off of that big animal that you killed. And so you don't have to spend all your time hunting. And so you can spend some of your time, like, making better clothing and working on spears and figuring out how to make a better spear to kill bigger animals and figuring out how to control fire and what woods burn and how to make that work, and figuring out that if you take coal from the fire and scratch it on the wall, you can make images and representations, and using those to represent where the next animals that you need to kill are, and growing and evolving and innovating and changing. It all stems from abundance, not from hardship. Hardship destroys you. Necessity is the mother of invention, but only if you have the time. Otherwise, you're just bound by necessity, and you do the only thing you can do, and you don't have time to innovate, right? It's like what people say about me and risk-taking. It's like you have to have some level of stability to take risks, or you have to be willing to die. You have to be willing to completely die and go completely hungry in order to pursue a new way of being. And that's something that we learned, is that you can actually do that. And instead of gathering up all the food that you need, you can put it in away for the winter, and the next spring you can put it in the ground and it will make more food. And that's the fundamental human ability to plan for the future. We innovate so quickly now because we aren't all completely enslaved by hunger and cold. You can't invent new AI art apps if you have to chop wood to burn to stay alive. Bingo. And I'm going to stop there, partly because I'm running out of time, and partly because that's where the comments seem to peter out in direct and immediate value. I'll do one refresh to see if there are any new comments that just came in. The OVA comes between 16 and 17, but it ruins the flow of the episodes. I'm going to watch it at the end of the two. We figured that out. It's the way that my version of the videos has it represented. I'm going to watch it between 17 and 18. So it'll be 16, 17, 17.5. And I think that's it in terms of new comments having come in. So there we are. That'll be the comment spotlight. I'm gonna call it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. And I'm gonna record the rest of this when I get the chance. Appreciate you, and I appreciate your patience. Peace. Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Teeaboo, and I am here for Mushoku Tensei, episodes 16 and 17, in some combination that we're going to figure out right now, sort of. Here's what's up. I was supposed to record these last week, but I didn't plan for it very, very well. It is currently Monday on the week after that, and I'm going to start here. I actually did start over the weekend. I recorded the comment spotlight for the episode on the day that I was supposed to do it, and that's pretty good, so I've already done the comment spotlights. That's like an hour of work gone. And now I've got 2 episodes sitting in front of me. The reason is that I've been recommended by multiple people who I trust relatively to watch both episodes together. And so that's what I'm going to try to do, sort of. But I might not have time. That's the problem. So I'm going to sit down. I'm going to get going. I'm going to watch one of them at least today. And I'm going to start with episode 16 because that's the only place to start. And I won't hold myself to watching 17 today. I won't force it, but I'll try. I'll see if I can. And the goal, the actual necessity goal, is to have 16 and 17 both watched by end of week, which is to say by Wednesday. So what may happen, I've got an hour and 45 minutes right now, is about how much time I have. And then I would have to be in a totally different mental state and come back and watch the next episode. I haven't been able to fit both of them together. I just haven't been able to do it. And it's been forcing me out of alignment in a weird ways. So I'm just going to watch the first one. I'm going to watch 16 today. I'm going to try to get to 17 as soon as I possibly can. And I'm going to mash collab them into one video probably. And that mash collab into one video is going to all go up on Wednesday. And that's the goal. So what are we up to right now? Well, I want to get a little bit of housekeeping done. Just a few things, because there have been some significant changes in my life and everything, and so I want to mention those. And also, I need to be taking bites of food so that I get this food in me by the time that I start the episode, so that I'm not eating during the episode. So we'll mix and match and go back between chewing and eating and talking to you. Let me start with some chewing and eating, and then I'll talk to you. For anyone curious, this is chicken cacciatore over some pasta, which I don't love that it's over pasta, but who cares? With a ton of olives and some mushrooms. And then I have added, over top of it, I've added a bunch of fresh alfalfa, clover, and radish sprouts to give it some extra crunch and a huge helping of extra phyto and micronutrients, just to get things going. I've been eating a good chunk of sprouts because they're really cheap. Sprouts are super cheap, extremely nutrient dense, and frankly, they have very little flavor. And well, the radish sprouts have a lot of flavor, but the alfalfa clover sprouts have very little flavor, and they just add some like crunch and texture. And so you can just I've been throwing them on everything. I threw them on toast. Like I made toast, and I do toast with olive oil and sea salt. So I did toast. I put some sprouts on them, and I did olive oil and sea salt. And tastes exactly the same except crunchier. Pretty cool. Okay. Housekeeping. I want to mention this in one of the Mushoku videos because it's really important. I've changed my entire payment platform and the whole strategy for content creation and consumption. Here's how it works. It used to work like this. I gave away all my content for free, but I withheld the content for a week in order to manufacture the value of immediacy. And we've talked about this as an exploitative thing in Cyberpunk and in here, and I've been thinking about changing that for a while. Because what I would like to be able to say is I give away my content for free and I ask people to pay me for it, and they do. And that's not exactly true at the moment, or it wasn't until Friday. What was really true is that I make all my content free, but I withhold it and people pay for the privilege of watching it earlier. And that is unacceptable to me. That's not the way that I want to live this life. So here's my proposition. If my content has provided as much value to you as a loaf of bread, please consider sending me the monetary equivalent of that value. Does that make sense? If you've benefited from the way that I look at art, the way that I look at Mushoku Tensei, the way that I talk about these stories, and if you've benefited from the fact that I make this long-formed, full content completely free, accessible to anyone, anywhere in the world who has an internet connection, totally free in order to get a genuine, real look into my mind, with the knowledge, on your end, the knowledge that I spend all day, every day thinking about and working on this, even though they're like, well, how do you spend all day, every day working on these hour-long videos? It's like, well, because I'm thinking about this stuff all day, every day. And here's the deal. I would do this for free. I will do it for free if I have to. I'll do this until the moment that I am starving. Until the moment that I cannot do it anymore. Now, I'll alter my course as I go in order to try to avoid that point. But some of these principles I'm going to follow until I die. And I'm willing to die for them, happily. I've died before. I die all the time. I die daily. I die hourly. I let myself, the self that is a coward, die. And so I killed a big coward in me on Friday. And that big coward was this. Man, if I take away the withholding, if I remove the barrier, the paywall, I'm going to lose everything because nobody will ever pay. You know, it's like, well, you need toll roads because nobody will donate to pay for the roads because people are assholes, right? That's the idea. What if it's not true? What if we've never found out because we've always had toll roads? Or always had enforced taxes or whatnot. That's kind of how it feels in my community. And so I was not willing to let it sit that way. And so for the next month, minimum, I expect that this will be forever. And I'll tell you why in a second. I expect that this will be forever. But for the next month minimum, there's no early access. It doesn't exist. The videos are free. Truly and completely free. Multi-hour discussions, the daily brew streams that I'm doing on the other channel, which I'm now streaming. I'm streaming every morning at 10 a.m. for about an hour, maybe more. It was like 2.5 hours this morning because we ended up talking about fitness and nutrition and then diverging off into talking about religion and spiritualism and science and fact and rationalism and reality and all sorts of stuff. And I'm really enjoying it. It's really fun. Please come and check those out. They're on the other channel. All of it free. All of it with no ads. All of it with no sponsorship, with no bias except my own. All of it for free. All of it with the purpose of trying to gather, because my goal is this. My goal is to go and gather the most interesting information in the entire world that I can find, and then give it to you for free. That's my whole goal. It's who I am as a person. I am in weird spiritualist terms, I am a shaman. I am one who goes and sees beyond the borders of what is known, attempts to put it into some kind of articulation, and brings it back and returns it to the tribe. You are my tribe. You are my family, and this channel is my house, and it is no good shaman, no good leader who requires his children and his brothers to pay him to live in his house. So this is my house, and you may live in it. And I mean, this is my mind, man. This is my brain. As close as anyone can get to expressing themselves completely and expressing what they discover about the world completely, I will give unto you for free, always and forever. And so what I ask in return is that you see the value being presented to you, and in the interests of equivalent exchange, and in the interests of truth and harmony and fairness, that you choose to vote with your wallet and put your mouth where your money is and your money where your mouth is. And feed me, essentially. Essentially, allow me to continue surviving via your sacrifice of funding. Because your tiny sacrifice of funding is just a drop in the bucket. It's $5, right? $1, $5, $2, or the $15 insane people who give me lots of money. Thank you. But your $5 is a drop in the bucket. But there are 1,000 people currently giving me money. 1,020 something right now. And that's what's funny, is that since Friday, I have made $750 in pledges. Since Friday. Now, it's gone down, too. A bunch of people have deleted their profiles. A bunch of people have deleted their Patreon payments. A bunch of people have downgraded. But more people have upgraded. They've gone from $1 to $5, or $5 to $15, or 0 to $5. And people keep coming in. And people who keep coming in, they keep paying for the annual subscription because they're like, well, I'm just going to pay for the annual because I know that I'm going to support this guy. So, Friday, I sat here terrified in tears. Terrified that what I was doing, that I knew would be right. I knew it would be right to do this. Terrified that even though it was right, it would be too much and that it would kill me and that it would destroy this channel. And so far, my income has gone up. And the number of people supporting me has gone up. Because I followed the principle, as far as I can tell. And others will argue that it's for other reasons, that it's like a temporary thing, and we'll see. Because I think that if I keep putting out content with fervor and passion, people are going to connect to it in a way that, well, that they're going to start commenting in the comments and be like, hey, can I just give you money? Because people ask me if they can just give me money sometimes. And so I'll figure out better ways for you to donate to me. But I want to be explicit and clear about what we're doing here and how this exchange works. So here's how the exchange works. I make the most valuable thing that I can possibly imagine in terms of these videos. They're the most valuable thing that I've come across. Talking about the information and condensing the information in our most dense forms of information, condensing it and articulating it and expressing it and explaining it further. It's the most valuable thing that I can do. It's also a complete sacrifice of me, because I'll say this again, I have every reason to go back to Silicon Valley with my new mindset, because I've got this new mindset about creativity and creation and stuff. I could go back to Silicon Valley and start working at some pretty serious companies and go gangbusters, start making a lot of money, start making interesting products. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sacrifice that whole life path. That's not me. My path is shaman. My path is giver. And so I will give unto you the most dense information that I can. And it's not from the perspective of I know what's best. It's the perspective of, man, I got eyes on me. And my eyes see things that other people don't see. It's one of the most common comments that I get, is people being like, wow, you notice stuff that I never noticed. So I notice stuff that you might not notice, and I'll point it out. That's me. That's who I am. And I'm going to do it for free. Always. In every way. Completely free. And then I will simply ask you to exchange value for it. If you received value, give value. And we'll see if it works. Because what if we could build a world on that sort of a principle, on like literal, consensual, agreed upon, unforced fairness? Everybody says that it can't be done. Like really, everybody believes that it can't be done. And if you go through the posts and the comments on that video, everybody's going like, man, this is a bad idea. You're going to lose a bunch of followers. And I have, but I've gained more. I've gained more. What the fuck is up with that, huh? What the fuck? Maybe it's temporary, but explain that shit to me, please. Because everyone who's been dismissive of what I've done has said something along the lines of, I'm really afraid that you're going to lose all your viewership and not be able to make these videos anymore. That's what I'm afraid of. And the answer is, if you're afraid that I'm going to lose all of my viewership and I'm going to lose all my funding and not be able to make these videos, all you have to do to solve that problem is go to the Patreon and give me $5. And you have done your part to solve the problem. Because if you think that the videos are valuable enough that you don't want them to go away, all you have to do is pay for them, and what you're paying for is for the videos to not go away. So, that's what I ask for. I will give unto you the freest, bestest content that I can possibly make, and I ask that you pay me a pittance. Because all I need is a pittance. All I need is a dollar from a few thousand of you. That's all that's needed. And if we can turn that 1,000 of you into 2,000 of you, or 3,000, or 4,000, or 5, 10, 20, 50,000 people giving $1, then we're talking, man. Then we're talking acceleration. Then we're talking, I'd have the ability to really shape this. And to start start expanding myself and really shaping the world, because that's what I want to do. I made a post a little while ago called Billionaire Mindset, and it's not about getting rich and fucking bitches. It's about getting wealth and power and utilizing it. And that's what I'd like to do. But mostly, I'd like to utilize it to do exactly this more. To have the ability to set up better computing and better systems and services so that I don't have to put in as much rote manual labor in order to get this artistic product out to you as effectively and quickly as possible. And funding is the main barrier to all of that. So if you'd like the content to get better, and if you'd like there to be more of it into the future, and you'd like for me to not die, and I don't mean that to guilt you, but that's where we're headed here. It's either I succeed wildly or we start failing and we have to change. I'd rather succeed wildly, and I think a lot of you would rather see me succeed wildly. So here's my religion. My religion is shonen protagonist-ism. It is act like your favorite shonen protagonist. Act like a collab of them. Treat the shonen protagonists like they are religious figures on the order of the Buddha, on the order of Siddhartha Gautama, on the order of Jesus Christ. Religious figures. Naruto. Tanjiro. Luffy. Ash fucking Ketchum. Aang. Korra. Protagonists. And then become a protagonist. Start following in their footsteps and act like them. Point at the stars and start aiming. Get your team around you and be fair to them. And you're my team. All of you. Every single one of you. So come on. Come on. Let's go. Let's go. You help me, I help you. We build together. To the future. To the unknown. And from darkness and chaos, we will build ourselves castles in the sky. And yes, some of that wording is intentionally Mushoku-esque, because I know who I'm talking to. And I know that some of you know that what I speak is truth, because I know that some of you have started acting like Rudy, because you identify with Rudy. And what you've found is that when you act the way that Rudy does when he's acting properly, your life gets better, right? That's why you care about this show. It shows you a religious, spiritual way of being in narrative, in myth. And that way of being functions better than what you had before. And it shows you a direct mythological path from the worst person sitting in his room jerking off to lolly porn, right? Like really fucking his life up. A direct path from there to being an exceptional person who is accepted and loved and his company is enjoyed and he's good and he's moving towards something of value. And I want that for everyone. I want that for every single human being on this planet. I want every single one of them to feel fulfilled, to be driven toward success and life and beauty. And that means slaying contempt for being, which is the monster that I see, the parasite that infects so many minds and forces so many people down the path of belief that being is wrong, that there's nothing to fight for. And that ain't it. Because when you act like a shonen protagonist, the world arranges itself to give you an interesting quest to follow with great rewards at the end. So act like a shonen protagonist and learn from these grand myths. And that's where we'll leave off on terms of the housekeeping stuff here at the beginning. Support me on the Patreon, it's down below. Go check out the Daily Brew. It'll be daily at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Every day. It's been a bitch in the last 2 days to wake up and make sure that I'm here and ready to go by 10, but I've gotten it within 5 minutes each time. And I'm going to keep doing it every fucking day for the rest of my life. Because it seems about right. And I might switch it to be 9 a.m. so that I have more time afterward and I won't have to run into these scheduling issues as much. But regardless, we're speeding up now. We're going faster now. We're getting better now. And in every way, I am improving. And it is only thanks to your support that I am capable of doing so. My body and mind are becoming exceptional. I started out with some privileges in terms of general health and well-being and overall inbuilt genetic structure. My dad's a well-built human being, well put together. My mother's a relatively attractive woman in terms of tradition. I don't find my mom attractive, obviously. but is considered relatively attractive. And so I've got those traits in me. So I've got a pretty good starting point. Not everybody does. So what can I do to validate that? To validate those privileges? It's to make the best use of them that I can. Because I've got a physique and a bone structure that can be extraordinary, and I'm making it so. And I've got a mind and a psychological structure that could be extraordinary, and so I'm making it so. And it is your support that allows me to do it, and it is the process of showing you how I've been doing it that allows me to do it more. It's weird, but the process of teaching cements and really helps me. So there's nothing more valuable to me than trying to help you. And if I can receive funding for it in return, that's all I want in the entire world. So, support the channel on the Patreon. Check out the brew. Stick around, because things are going to stay interesting here. And if you can't handle the chaos, if it's just too much, and you just want out, go. No hard feelings. No hard feelings. I get it. I don't not get it. I'm changing directions and switching gears. And your comfy, cozy Teeaboo just reacts to anime and that's all he does channel is changing. I get it. People don't like change. But, come along or get off the ride. Because the ride is taken off. Yeah. And if you're going to come along, provide some fuel. Thank you. I love you all. Okay, that's my housekeeping. We're on toward Mushoku Tensei episode 16. We're heading to the Holy Kingdom of Milis, I believe. And I don't know what the fuck we're going to find there. What I do know is that I need to chow down on this entire meal that I've taken one full bite of in the 20 minutes that I've been recording, even though I was supposed to go back and forth. I'm going to chow this really fast, and then we'll get to the video. All right, welcome back. We are ready to roll for episode 16 of Mushoku Tensei. The beast has been eaten. The beast has been fed and satisfied. And so let's watch it, man. Let's fucking watch it. So to be clear, I've got about 2 hours. What I might do is, well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. One thing that I would be happy to do is I'd be happy to get both episodes watched at once and then have discussion afterward and leave discussion afterward for me to percolate and come back and make longer discussion later. We'll see. But that'll also be an experiment in new ways of doing things, so we'll see. I'm just going to try some stuff, and maybe it'll work, and maybe it doesn't. But what we're going to try right now is the thing that definitely works, which is shutting the fuck up and pressing the play button. So, I've got episode 16 of Mushoku Tensei up and ready to go. It's at 0 seconds. There will be 2 versions, picture-in-picture in the description, timer on YouTube, beep-beep timer to count you down. All of the content everywhere on this channel is completely free, and I can say that now with absolute sincerity. There's no early access, no ads, no sponsorships, and nothing but grass-fed organic Teeaboo. So if you'd like to support the production of grass-fed organic Teeaboo and my continued survival as a content creator and also human being, please consider throwing me $1, $5, $15, whatever you can afford, whatever you think that the content is worth on Patreon. And also suggest if you know of any other content payment platforms that you like more, let me know. I've been thinking about maybe I'll activate YouTube memberships or something like that. Because now that I'm not married to early access, well, I'm less married to Patreon as a sole source of payment. That means that I can expand and go in different directions and stuff, and that might be good. It might be stupid. It might be exactly the wrong thing to do. But let me know what you think, and if you think that the content is worth even $1 a month for dozens of long-form, insightful, hopefully difficult, serious commentary on various pieces of media, well then give me $1. And for that $1, you will get access to my Discord where you can come and talk and give yourself a voice in my community. And you'll get voting access, which gives you a voice and a vote in my community and a say in what shows I watch next and where the channel goes in the future, because I've been doing way more polls for way more things. So if those things sound like they might be worth $1, send me $1. And we'll see if we can get a few thousand of you sending me $1, and then the early access has made up for itself completely. Anyway, thank you, and let's get to it. Beep beep timer for Mushoku Tensei episode 16. Travel? That's pretty cute. Hey, squaddin'. Hey, geese. Still alive, eh? Haven't turned into a dragon yet? Or whatever the fuck you are. Those are cute. That's a cute technique for the moving flowers. God, are we Spice and Wolf now? Are we Spice and Wolf now? This is Spice and Wolf now. Happy vibes all day. Nothing but good vibes. Actually, that scares me. That makes me think this episode's gonna be horrifying. Because good vibes hit a wall. Like racism or something. Like, oh, he's a spurred. Oh, wow. Okay. What? He doesn't want to go anywhere near the city, huh? I believe it. Oh, she wants to learn things. Oh, Boo! Goo! Fucking asshole, but exactly where my mind went to. Oh, she wants to be a good waifu. Sure. Alright, geese, what the fuck? Can we get a flash of something sinister? Alright. You fucking weirdo with your black fingernails and your monkey face. Oh! Oh wait, no, it's just a different song. I was like, oh, no, P, banana. But no. So blue roofs is interesting. That's different. It's also, it would indicate something about the clay or materials in this area. Because, like in the US, or in the real world, we don't make blue roofs. Oh, Greece does, don't they? Blue and white. I don't like these CG people in the background, but what are you gonna do? Draw people? This isn't the fucking 80s where you have money. Wow, okay. It's well structured. No, that's well put together. Holy. Very holy. That's scary. Holy is scary, always. It's always fanaticism that scares me far more than, like, evil. Okay, spires to heaven. Bridges and bridges. Yeah, covered up the third eye, of course. I'm sorry for talking through this song. This song is gorgeous. And I hear it fully, so I'm interrupting it for you, and I apologize. The song is lovely and very ethereal and holy in a way. Okay, nighttime. Saksen Kaigi. Oi. Jesus. All right. Nice. Well, you might. There might be distractions here. Okay. Yeah. And then go. Less time overall. Yeah, that's quite fair. Uh-oh. We'll see, man. What's your good plan? You gonna sell those? Yana kanji desu. He didn't even notice, really. A day of rest, eh? Oh, cast Fabricate a couple times. Yeah, I mean, it's a 4th level spell. You gotta burn your spell slots a bunch to cast Fabricate. Oh, boy. And they're gonna have access to the mail. Yeah, he's got no idea. Oh. Goblin Slayer. No. Of course. No. She's strong as fuck. Let it go. Yeah. Yeah, let her go. She's strong as fuck. She's strong as fuck, bro. It's all good. Trust. I believe it, actually. Huh. They do, but I believe it, actually. Cool. A fun free day. What is wrong with your eye, child? Why are you blinking at me, but only half? Oh, a partial CG crowd. Weird. Oh. Oh. Huh. Can't stop it all, huh? But yeah. Yeah, you gotta watch out. But morals, man. He's gonna go. Okay. You do not talk about Fight Club. Little by little. Okay, so Rudy alone in a city. Something can go wrong now. What if that's Paul? What if that's Paul? Ha! No. I was just thinking, like, who would be the funniest person for that to be? And the answer would be, it would be Paul. He's just actively writing a letter to him. Wait, this was not a kidnapping. This was an anti-kidnapping. Call the leader. They're giving him food. My guy, stop making assumptions. Don't make assumptions, dude. You're gonna kill a bunch of innocents. Oh, are these people being fucked with by the church? I'll bet it's an abandoned church. Kids' clothing? It's panties or something. Nah! You coward is putting a trap with panties. Just don't kill them, dude. No, they're actually gonna think he's legit. You Nutty, a powerful weapon. So Ruggiero is a fucking panty thief. Shit. Dude. Wait, we've seen her! That's Hot Lady from the above. Paul. They're hers. Uh-oh. No! Yeah. So she's legit. Wow, they drew so much titty moving around. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yep, there it is. Sugoi! Ah! No. No, tiny wizard. What a great image. Ah. I'm just trying to see your big titties. It's Paul. It is 100%. Wow! No. You are fucked if you fight him. Yeah, weird. It's like you might know him from somewhere. Yeah, it's like you're close or something. Instantly, pow. Yeah, immediately, this is not to be fucked with. You need the eye going. Yep, foresight. He's used that move on you before. Yeah. Hey, weird. Oh, wow. Animalistic. Yeah. Well, he's a wolf, actually. A wolf. Fuck you, Paul, and your bullshit. It's really good. Yeah. Daddy? Dada? Oh, he cut through it. Oh no, he's gonna see that I'm... He's gonna drop a sword, yep. Nani? My son? Huh? Rudy? Some drunk. Very cool. Very cool. Right, so we get to reconcile with Big Titty Lady as well. Sorry. That is the priority, though. Whoa, everybody. Oh, he's running the squad. This is the oh. Jesus. Ooh. Is this the Adventurers Guild? Hi, Paul. How you fucked up, man? Why are you so rough, dude? Yeah, he's not doing okay. What is wrong with your father? All the eyes watching. He's just stuck, man. He's got no idea. So there we go. Surviving, learning, training heiress. Traveling with a spurred. Yeah, we gotta speed through. Way too much to tell. You can't coincide it. Aye. Oh, he is explaining it. What is happening? What is Paul feeling? No. What is Paul feeling? He's pissed. He's not happy. Because you're just out having this fun time and your family's fucked. More and more enraged. Or something. So we're gonna have do slam. There we go. Zero comprehension, right? Well, because he sees the he sees the lightness in the hardship. Yeah, he's just trying to tell you a nice story, man. But that's not it. Explain your shit, father, instead of being critical. What other victims? Ah. Because he ignored it. It's a legitimate question. I thought he just hadn't known. But that's correct. It never occurred to him. That's the world. He misses the point completely. No, you have to focus on what's right in front of you. Adventuring to get back here. Everything lines up. Yeah. He was a child left alone. Yeah, like, hard fuck off on this one, Paul. Yes, you are actually. Yes, you are actually. Ah. You going to utilize her? Ah, you see that he's just like you. Is that what you think? Got it. All right, Paul. You really gotten dark, man. You won't believe that, and the smiles will continue. Okay, so she jumps in. You can shut the fuck up with that. Correct. You're a whore, a womanizer. No, don't be specific. Do not be specific, you idiot. You idiot. He doesn't know where they are. No, you missed it, Rudy. You're about to get hit, dude. And you're speaking to a drunkard who hasn't cleaned himself up. Mm-hmm. Idiot. Nope. Yeah, if he uses foresight, you have no chance. Shut the fuck up. Yeah, there we go. We'll see how Paul reacts to this. He should be humbled. Who just walked in? Is that the daughter? You fuck off. Uh-huh, it's disdain and contempt. That's your sister, isn't it? That's your sister, isn't it? Yeah, that's your sister. Uh-oh. She does not. Why are you... Yeah. It's all about perspectives all the way through. But he was bullying me, and he was. But you've let yourself go, and so it's wrong. Fuck this show. God, that's some multi-layered bullshit. Oh. Whoa, you can't walk away. Never abandon a child. No, so you just want to run away. This is back to old Eartheus. Right, so finally we get some connection. Everyone. Our whole family is scattered. Yeah. And Sylphie as well. Right, you went through Zantport. He didn't get it, dude. He didn't get it, and he wasn't taking it easy. But yeah. The unknown. The unknown. You weren't, you just didn't think of it. Yeah. Fuck off. Always seeing things from that direction. See, it never even crossed his mind that it would be his mother. So now we finally get some connection. Well, we know Lilia and Aisha are together. So these are all Buena Villagians. Yeah. Get picked up and taken as slaves. Totally. Totally. Oh, shit! Right, all he has is Norn. So now I find that you're a fool. Right. He literally didn't know, though, right? He actually truly didn't know. So you can have all your contempt for him, but it's bullshit. It's truly bullshit. So he has to strike. No, you have to step forward, you idiot. You have to step forward, you idiot. You can't step backward. If you step backward, you never start going forward again. Step forward. No. He can't do it right now. He needs time. And reasonably so. That's a lot. Oh, we're getting unfamiliar ceiling reference. Okay, fair enough. What are you reaching for, then? See, you think you can just brush over it. You have to make action. Hmm. Wow. Wow. Disgust and anxiety. Wow. Yep. Immediate knowledge. Who hurt you? Oh, because he's bruised up too. Hey. Whoa, Eris, let's not murder his father. The good rule. Yeah, simple, simple. How dare they hurt him? It's better than going and trying to cause more harm. How do I... Yeah, sit there, dude. Closer. Closer. Sit closer. With the closerness. Sit with the closerness. Thank you. Idiot. No, it's not. Don't say Daijoubu. It's not all right. But good try. That's what's necessary. Because it helps. Also, a hug for about 15 seconds helps immensely. He needs to be about 15 seconds to get the full oxytocin release. Wow. I'll let it play to the end. And we're going to do a short discussion on this one, because there's a lot here, but short discussion. And we'll watch the next one in order to put it into context. Because we see Norn and Aisha in the ED. I know people are going to be like, oh, that's spoilers. Do you really think that I'm ever going to think that Norn and Aisha are just dead? Like, fuck off. I know that they're out there somewhere. It doesn't spoil anything. Alright, anyway. Lenses, lenses. It's funny that most of the animation in this episode is built to make titties swing really good. I approve. I mean, no complaints, man. Next time is reunited, so we'll head toward success in the next one, which is probably why we need the gut punch of both of them together. We get the recommendation from Geese, which includes the recommendation to go to the Adventuring Guild, which I think is a direct reference to go to the place where your father is. I think is exactly what he's saying, because Geese seems to know too much. Really love the architecture of this city. Again, the fact that it's blue roof stuff is interesting. There were all the blue crystals in the other town, so that's something. The religious symbolism and iconography is good. It's good in terms of this is accurate depiction of the way that we build religious structures and stuff. However, I am innately suspicious of religions in fantasy worlds, because it's very often that they're on some like, yes, we must cleanse and purify the entire world of all darkness, including all peoples of that they don't think are as good. And so they're kind of like Nazis, you know, like Christian Nazis, sort of what you get in these settings all the time. And I could be totally wrong about the Holy Kingdom of Millis. They seem to be pretty great. Hi, meeting! Everybody clap. Very cute little meeting thing. Love that we get the ideation from Rudy and all of his planning, and of course it all goes totally haywire because of the way that things go. The whole goblin slaying idea and stuff is very cute and very silly. So he goes to write the letter for Paul, and in the moment when he's doing that, he catches out of the glimpse out of the corner of his eye the thing that leads him to the thing that he's actually seeking. and he follows the rules and the principles. Don't abandon a child. Don't ever abandon a child. And so he gets in here, and we get a comedy of errors, a sequence of misinterpretation. It's obvious to us from at the outset that these people are taking care of this kid from the beginning, and it's obvious that Rudy is just going, oh, this is another kidnapping. I'm just going to solve it the way that I solved the other ones, and he's a fool because he's messed it up. Touching it is strangely soothing. That's panties, and he eventually puts them on. And the slow pan up to the panty head is hilarious. This is excellent and very good. And the line gag and just like raw panties is very good and very funny. And this is enjoyable as hell. So people fighting. This kid seems familiar. Lady arrives. Holy shit, she's a lot. And that's the whole point, right? The point is that she's a lot. And he slurps on the inside of her panties. Man, no. And so, of course, she gets absolutely enraged by this because she's like, you fucking monster. You pervert. You like panties. How dare you? It's like, okay, yeah, exactly. Well, he's a pervert, and how dare he? And we really begin it. This scene is fantastic because they put so much swang in the jiggle and so much jiggle in the swang. I mean, it's like really, there's so much effort into making the bazongas bounce. I'm not bringing it up because it's bouncing bazongas. I'm bringing it up because it's where the most animation effort is in the entire episode, is in making the bazongas go boing boing. And it's really good. Like, I got no complaints about I mean, look at this shit. Jesus, top tier. Tippity top tier. Absolutely love it. And then this whole slow-mo. Oh, hilarious. Absolutely stunning. Stop running around like a cockroach, and stumble comes up, just some drunk, and of course it's Paul. And we immediately know that. You're really running wild, you bastard, and he throws that on the ground, and we get him fighting, and immediately Rudy's like, okay, this is not normal. This is actually a problem. And Paul doesn't even really draw his primary blade. He's just using a short sword, an arming sword. He fights like he fights. How dare he? And up he goes, and he begins to run. What is he? A dog? No, he's a wolf. A wolf, man. Literally, and flailing and insane and out of his gourd. And we get a real good idea of who Paul was as a fighter before, right? And now he slices through the rock wall that Rudy makes and brings down what would be a killing blow. And it's only by being able to pare his way out of the way. And even in doing so, Paul is watching and ready for him, right? Because he's out of his league, actually. The face mask falls away, and we get our reunion and reintroduction. Ah, my father, I see. And he's not well. Well, he's had immense emotional distress, and he has not taken it well. So, in mythological terms, this is Jonah in The Whale. Or this is, actually, it's Geppetto in The Whale in Pinocchio, is that the father, when the son leaves, for whatever reason, the father falls apart. And so the prodigal son returns to a household in disarray to find that his father is not acceptable, is a drunk now. And this is a classic traditionalist story, is that the prodigal son goes out, comes back, and finds his home in disarray. And that's exactly what has happened to Rudy, except it's worse because his father has every reason to be a drunk and a fool, and his father is doing the right thing at the same time. So he's failing and doing the right thing simultaneously. He's seeking out Norin and Aisha and all of the other characters, but Zenitsu and all of these other people, he's seeking them, he's looking for them, he's organizing, but he's also drinking himself into oblivion, and he's emotionally distressed. And the primary reason is because he hasn't been able to connect to any of them. He hasn't had any inroads of success. The thing that shifts that is him reconnecting with Rudy and them working together. And so it's actually Rudy's responsibility to come back into this situation and put your father's house in order is the idea. It's really his responsibility to do that mythologically and contextually. So we get here, and we sit in this awkward circumstance, and God, what an awkward circumstance. And in this moment, we back and forth. I'm glad to see that you're still alive, but there are dozens and dozens of assumptions here. And here's what's wrong. Here's what's really wrong here. I'm going to boil it, the whole conversation, because the whole conversation has a bunch of really nuanced little things where these two characters barb at each other in ways that they don't understand and cause harm in ways that they don't understand. But the fundamental overlying thing is that communication has not been effective. Nobody's been able... So Rudy is not in the wrong here. He really isn't, because he had no way of knowing any of the things that had happened. What is wrong is that he assumed that nothing happened to anybody else, and he wasn't in any particular rush to get back to civilization and make sure that his family was okay. He was more interested in making sure that he and his immediate surroundings were okay. Now here's the deal. That's the norm, And there's nothing wrong with putting on your own safety mask, your own oxygen mask before the person next to you. In fact, you have to. If Rudy had just been dedicated entirely to getting home and getting his family back together, he wouldn't have learned any of the skills that he is actually going to need in order to accomplish that goal. So he would have come home and then failed because he wouldn't have had the skills he needed. Because of his adventuring and his flippantness, he's gained what he's needed. And the same is true with children everywhere, forever. Children will leave the house, and when they leave the house, they'll go in directions that their parents do not approve of. They'll go out partying and fucking and drinking and discovering and doing art and finding all these different things. And in doing so, they will be forged into the kind of person who can actually forge a path forward. If they don't get the chance to do so, for example, if they just go out and then come right back home, and you see this with kids who go off to college and they are like residential students or non-resident students who live at their parents' house and then travel to the college for school, they don't get the college experience. The college experience requires you to live in the dorm away from your parenthood so that you can fully explore. Otherwise, you don't actually get it. And so those people are less primed and less capable in life, I think. I would just suggest as a possibility, just the need to live in a new circumstance allows you to experience a bunch of freedom, and that freedom is what gives you the respect for responsibility. Because if you are always enforced in your responsibilities, you're forced to do this, you're forced to do that, you're forced to do this, because those are the right things, you'll never have any respect for them. And as soon as you get any freedom, you'll go, fuck all the things I've been taught, I'm going to go try everything else. And then you'll go and you'll try everything else, and you'll find out that most of it doesn't work. And mostly what works is the things that you were being forced to do anyway, but you have to come back to them on your own. Regardless, the whole point is this. These two characters are not on the same page about almost anything. So he says something about the message. He's like, what are you talking about? Oh, there was this thing, so I guess I'll just tell you what I was up to. I tell you the story. I got teleported. I met some people. I've been fighting my way forward through the world. I've been exploring and learning, and it's all been good. It's all been great, Dad. Don't you approve? And Dad goes, you haven't been suffering? I've been fucking suffering, kid. What the fuck? You've just been playing? You've just been jerking off? You've been jerking off on the road for a year? Your mom is out there. Your sister's out there. I'm out here. What the fuck are you doing? You asshole. You petulant, entitled child. What have you been doing? And you go, wait, no, I was just trying to show you that I've overcome all these things. That I see them in a positive light now because I've overcome them, is Rudy's mindset, right? Because in the interim, everything was a struggle and an immediate battle for survival, right? Throughout. Rudy hasn't really been fucking around. Everything was an immediate battle for survival. But once the battle for survival has occurred and is over, you can look back on the events that have occurred and go, well, that was hard, but I learned a lot from it, so it was an overall positive experience. And then when he tells the story to his father, he's like, I've had a lot of overall positive experiences, Dad. Don't you approve? And his dad goes, what the fuck are you talking about? Why aren't you suffering enough? You need to be suffering more. The fuck is wrong with you? And that's basically the conversation that we get. And so, well, Paul basically says, what the fuck is wrong with you? You fucking asshole. You've been goofing off this entire time. And Rudy is shocked. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he keeps pushing it aside, and he's correct. And the thing that sticks is, tell me, while you were on the demon continent, did you think at all, why didn't you try at all to learn about the other victims of the disaster? The truth is, Rudy had no way to know about the disaster, right? Hasn't met Roxy, right? Hasn't run into anybody, right? Has no idea and no reason to have any idea. So when he gets stunned by it and has no answer to that question, I don't actually think it matters. Like, I understand being stunned by it, but the truth is, Rudy has no reason to infer that the Mana disaster caused a cataclysm against everybody. He just knows that he and Ghislaine and Eris got teleported. He doesn't know about anybody else and has no reason to infer as much. So his father's criticisms are harsh and unfair. But from his father's perspective, his father's been suffering for a year and a half because he can't connect to any of his family. And the one person that he had any trust in was his son, who he said, I'm not going to go looking for you because I'm going to focus on looking for the others. And I'm going to hope that you get this message and start looking for them too, because that's all I can do. And the person who is his son comes back and he finds out that he hasn't been looking for them at all because he didn't even know. And so he calls him a fool and a loser. You idiot. You've been wasting time and money and effort. You've been wasting yourself. And that's not actually what's going on, because Rudy has learned and acquired the skills that he needs in order to succeed in his endeavors in the future. But his father will not and cannot ever see it that way, which is interesting. And will not and cannot see it that way until he fights him. because he has to physically put him in his place a little bit. And this is something that will happen with me and my father. Because this is a really interesting moment to watch and realize, because I'm going to have to reconcile with my father in the next 5 years or so. I'm going to have to. And we have an unreconcilable difference. And it's probably going to end up with me shoving him onto the floor and holding him by the throat. That's my expectation, is that I'm going to have to beat my father. And I mean literally beat him. For him to have any respect for me. And that might mean that I have to go and find him and seek him out, walk up to him, and punch his lights out. That might be how I have to broach the conversation with my father. It might be exactly what I have to do, is literally tackle him out of nowhere and try to kill him. And I'm probably going to do that within the next couple of years, is as either mentally or via words or physically. I'm going to go and try and prove myself to my father. And we'll see how it goes. But this is the moment. You went adventuring with a cute girl. Tell me, you just fucking with them, putting your panties on and playing hero? And so he snaps back at him. I was trying to keep Eris safe. And he says, well, I'm not blaming you. And this is the lead into, I'm not blaming you. You were just entranced by a sexy little bitch, is what he's about to say. But he is blaming him in every way. And he doesn't even see the reflection. And throughout this whole conversation, Paul's got this smug smile on his face over and over, a very punchable smile, you would say. And the reason is because he believes that he understands the entire framework, right? Everything Rudy says, he's just like, yeah, that confirms what I mean. That confirms what I already know. Yeah, kid, I understand what's going on here. Yeah, tell me more. Sure. Yeah, you've had a really hard time? Tell me about it. And so, of course, he gets punched. But of course, he starts it first. Must be a good-looking young lady. Do not write because you were... And so what we see in Rudy's eyes as he says this is we see the dawning revelation that his father is not only capable of maliciousness, but thinks that Rudy is. And so what he's done is he's really actually cut Rudy off at the knees in characterological terms, right? He said, you have no soul. Your character is faulty, is what his father has said. You are not good. You are distracted by women and sex and lust. You are not good. Your character is faulty. Your soul is flawed. And we see that in Rudy. He's shocked by this revelation from Paul. Why? Well, because he didn't realize that that's what Paul had inside him. And this is projection. This is what Paul would do. And so he's so smug and sincere about it. He's like, obviously, this is what you would do, because he can't help it. This is exactly what he would do when he was this age, and maybe now. And so Rudy snaps at him. Are you fucking sure? And we get the woman coming in. There's a discussion between a man and his son. And so Rudy jumps off of it and goes too far. You have no right to lecture me about women, father. Correct. But he should have stayed in the general. Should have stayed in the general. You have no right to lecture me about women, father. Well, you don't. You're a rapist, multiple times, unrepentant. You're a cheater and an adulterer, and I saved your ass from it. And now you're probably fucking around with this bitch, too. And, of course, being called out on the core sin that is his, which it is, absolutely, and it is true. If you want to infuriate somebody, call them out for something they actually do. Call them out for their actual sins, and they won't have anything to say to you. Because if you call them out for something that they only partially or tangentially do, they'll deflect and they'll lie and they'll push it aside and they'll have excuses and stuff. But if you call them out right at the core for what they really do wrong, they've got no recourse but to change or to try to kill you. So what does he do? And Rudy fucks it up. So Rudy is on the right path here, and what he should say is, you have no right to lecture me about women. If I were a lecherous pervert, it would be because I got it from you, and I am not that way toward Eris. Your assumptions are just projection, father. But instead he goes to the specific. He says, you're probably fucking around right now. And he might be, but Rudy doesn't know that, right? He's not sure of it, and you should not bring into insults that which you are not sure of. Do not insult people for things you do not know about them. Do not do it. Don't do it. Because his relationship with this woman might not be what you think it is. It also very well might be, but the assumption is flawed. And we see in her face this shock as well. Who is that woman? Do Mother and Lillian know you're hanging around with a pretty woman like her? And she gets the shocked face as well, and he gets really pissed. No, they don't. How could they? How could they? And he goes, well, you could be unfaithful as you'd like. You've got her quite and he keeps poking the bear, right? He's an idiot. He keeps heading down the thing, and he makes the mistake of turning away and closing his eyes, right? So you know that he's going to get punched, and he gets punched. So, knocked down, punched, he is. So, you must have been through Zantport. You must know. And of course he doesn't. Rudy swings at him like a fool, which isn't going to work because he's not as physically capable as his father. He realizes it, activates the eye. And in the eye activation, Paul swings, goes, what the fuck is that? And Rudy blasts him, knocks him up and onto his ass. Because that's necessary. He needs to demonstrate that he's capable of handling his father. That physical violence is not the end of the conversation. And the same goes for me and my father, because physical violence was always the end of the conversation. It was somewhere we never went, but it was always that he would, you know, if I was arguing with him about something, he would basically say, in no uncertain terms, that he's right because he's bigger than me and stronger, and so there's no choice. And he'd use the threat of violence in order to confirm his point. And so the only way that I can match him equally is to be able and to be significantly more capable of physical violence than he is. And I'm going to be significantly more capable when I meet my father again. I'm going to be very capable of harming human beings. Really, really good at it, actually. And practiced. And ready. And Rudy comes back with foresight as his eye, with magic in his hands, with a staff by his side, with his soul in line, and he shows that he is capable. And that means slamming his father to the fucking ground and beating the shit out of him for a little bit. So, good. And he's yelling, I've been doing everything I can, which is essentially indignant rage. It's not quite right, because he hasn't been doing everything that he can. So his actions here aren't correct either. Because he's using the physical violence, I think, in the right way in this circumstance, but he's using it in a way that just is holding on to his own ideas. He hasn't done any reconciliation or compromise, which would be the admission and the statement that really he has fucked up to some extent, even if he didn't know that he could have fucked up, and that taking of responsibility. So I expect that that's what we'll head into in the next episode. But he's expressing it. I didn't know anyone there. It was a constant battle for survival, and I was doing everything that I possibly could. I didn't know, right? And that's the biggest thing. He really didn't know. Had no idea that his family was in disarray. How would he? But ignorance doesn't excuse everything to some extent. It does, I think, excuse this. It really does excuse this. But of course, Paul doesn't see it that way. And so they fight. And so, like, of course they fight. And finally, she runs in, and it's his sister. And suddenly that breaks it up. Do you remember me? I'm your stop bullying my dad. And he has this revelation that he has become the thing that he hates the most. What's that supposed to mean? I wasn't bullying him. I'm not a bully. No, but you are capable of harm. And you need to get a lock on that shit, Rudy. And we get this. I guess I can just leave. I didn't see anything. Forget all about it. I didn't do anything. I didn't see anything. I'll just go and I'll wait and I'll continue on my own path. Then we'll get the fuck out of here. We'll just run away. We'll just run away from the real hardship. This is Earth-Deus. This is moving backward. So Paul explains the truth. Everyone got caught. I left a message for you. Why didn't you read the message? A lot of people died while you're taking it easy on the road. He didn't read the message because he didn't get the message. Because Zantport was crazy. Why was I so sure that Buena Village was fine? He just didn't think about it. He wasn't sure that Buena Village was fine. He just wasn't sure that it was. He just didn't know that it was in trouble. And he had no reason really to believe that it would have been. And he thinks Sylphie, because of course he does. And of course Paul thinks Mother. And so he thinks that even the fact that he thinks of Sylphie is a worse thing. And so he doesn't even realize that he's finally connected to him emotionally. Because he finally connected to him emotionally and is like, there's a real fucking thing that happened. He goes, oh my God, everybody that we know is out there. Sylphie? Right? Because he's focused on children. and his friends and the people who are close to him. And he's not that close to Zenitsu, but Paul fucking is. So Paul is like, how dare you think of that over your own mom? Wait, mother too? How would he even know, right? His first thought was Sylphie. Or Lilia, or Aisha. We've been doing this whole thing this whole damn time. And they've been enslaved, so that's what's been going on. You don't understand any of what's been happening. I was sure you'd have realized and started doing something ages ago. Well, he didn't know. He didn't know. So your blame upon him doesn't work. But you were adventuring without a care in the world. Of course. Why would he care about something he literally didn't know was there? It's like if you lived your whole life in one village, and the village across the mountain over the way has been starving, but you have no contact with them, and you live in abundance. Are you to blame for the other village's starvation? Well, of course, you could take your food and walk across the mountains you've never been across for no reason, and give the food that you have abundance of to the people who are starving and prevent them from starving. But if you don't know that they're there, then there's no moral obligation to do anything, because you literally couldn't be obligated because you lack the knowledge of the obligation. So the whole thing is, from Paul's perspective, just wrong. And we get this scene where he sees all of them as the dismissal. But it's different, because in this circumstance, he's being kicked out because he did something wrong. And he can't. So he falls apart and runs away. Overwhelmed, unfamiliar, broken. And he tries to walk it through. No, we can totally get through this. The next first step is to see Paul. And in thinking of just seeing his father, he vomits. The anxiety builds up within him. He can't. It's overwhelming. It's terrifying. And they walk in and find him to be a sad sack of shit. And of course, she wants to kill whoever caused this, because she's Eris. And Richard hits her with a, then you comfort him. And she has no idea how to. And we go back to Candlelight, and I love this scene. How she just doesn't know how. And the answer is just proximity. And she says it's all right. And here's something that I learned from The Whole Brain Child and from a couple of other books and a couple of other bits about with children. When a child is crying, the thing that you do not tell them is, everything is okay, it's all right, no problem, it's all right, it's okay. Do not do this, ever, because it's not okay for the child. If it were okay, they wouldn't be crying, so you're just telling them a lie. You're literally lying to them. Tell them it will be okay. That will work. This won't be forever. That will work. And talk to them about how they actually feel. You feel really frustrated. Do you feel angry? Are you sad? This is crying. And be there for them. And that's it. That's it. Teach them how to regulate their own emotions, not how to convince themselves of the lie that things are okay. Because when you're crying and distraught and distressed, you are not okay. The world is not all right. That child is not acceptable, is not in a good place. It's not okay. And so you gotta say, I know it feels like things are going to be this way forever, but in a little while, you're going to be able to breathe and it will be okay. Right now, things feel really painful, but in a few minutes, we'll sit together and I'll love you regardless and we'll be okay. So she says Daijobu, but then she moves into exactly right. I'm here for you, and that's the one, man. But the real one is this one. She brings herself down to his level. Not in the specific way, but in an empathetic way. To express her own soul in this moment, which is that she's afraid and doesn't know what she's doing. And that moment is when Rudy goes, oh, and he smiles. And they sort of lock into each other, and she goes from shaking to nod, because he accepts her and leans in. Because, like, I know you're not good at it. That's okay. Thank you. I'm not good at it either. If I were good at it, I wouldn't be freaking out. And that goes for the whole life thing. You do the life thing, and you reach out to people, and you go, hi, I'm not good at this. I'm trying. And what you'll get is respect. Really. From anybody who's well-adjusted, what you'll get is respect. For your admission of humility and your ability to learn. That's what you'll get. Thank you, Eris. And next episode is Reunited. So, with an hour on the clock, I'm going to take a break just to do a sync and be back in a second. We're going to jump right into the next episode. All right, here we go for episode 17 of Mushoku Tensei. I've been told that these go together well, and I believe it. We sort of left that unfulfilled and unresolved. And this next episode is titled Reunited. And so that might mean reunited in spirit, because these characters have already been reunited in physicality. However, when you reconcile with someone, it requires compromise. And compromise requires self-understanding. Because you have to know what parts of yourself have to be changed or altered or cut out in order to fit the new way of being. And that means self-reflection. And self-reflection hurts. So I think there's going to be some pain in this episode, and we'll have to see how it goes. But I would expect that we might find out some bits about Rudy here. We might find out some bits about Paul here, and it might be tough. But let's watch the episode and go ahead and find out. So, beep beep timer for episode 17 of Mushoku Tensei. There's a fuzz over everything. Is this the moment of, whoa? Fully teleported to nowhere. Just a ring of mountains around field? It's literally a ring of mountains around a field. Huh, okay. Where the fuck are we? Eh? Are we gonna actually... No. Are we gonna actually show his path? And bring it in and through? We could. Yeah, he's trying to be strong for her the whole time. Yeah, let's hurry home, eh? Nice horsey. Go, horsey. Yeah, sickness. Trying to survive with a tiny child. Where'd he even get the horse? And of course, we see as well Norn's like growing incredible affection and love for her father because he's capable, right? Great. That's awesome. I love multi-layered harmonic chants. The settler village and the notes. The beginning of the group, and he's the leader of it, of course. People are trying and reuniting some, but he's just becoming more haggard as he goes. Oh, and we don't even get to know how we met them. We find a place for Norn, but he's distraught. Yeah, not making any progress. The one light. Oh, man. Yeah, the one light in his life, of course. Yeah, and that fades too. And the drink. Yeah, and these two have been with, but they can't stop him. He's just seeking dispel. Yeah. And she's trying to pull him out of it, but she can't. She doesn't know how. She's a child, obviously. Rough stuff, Pops. Where to? Geese? Geese, where'd you get all that money? Geese? Hey, buddy. What? Huh? 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 This is not the guild. Cool. Oh, never mind. He set that up? Did he set that up? Fucking geese. More booze, more talking. Oh my god, so many drinks. Oh, so this is the day after. Got it. He's a kid. Yeah, so he's playing matchmaker, huh? Yeah, he's great, but is he a fucking genius god? Right, so he should be doing amazingly, right? Still a child. This is my father. It's just my father. Eating plants. Smearing poop on walls. Yes, it is the same thing, actually. How do you think he did that? Nope. So now you're contradicting yourself. Yes. You've convinced yourself, haven't you? Yes. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, do you? So you don't actually know what the fuck you're talking about, do you? Yeah. Yeah. It's just a happy fun time to frolic around and fuck demon girls. No! You're weak. Death and destruction. Chaos. Right, we did find out about that. Your son had some shit to focus on. He's not, actually. Yep. First time. Could have turned on him at any point. Oh, and had to deal with Eris, who's a firehead. And he had to protect somebody else. Fuck you, geese. Fuck you, you literal god. I think you're a literal god in this universe, you fucker. You fucking douche canoe. Because we already talked this through. Father, look at all the things I've overcome. Because you're his dad. He's so great. He's so great. Geese is the bomb. So, na. Yes. So why haven't you stopped? Yeah. You look like shit, bud. You look like shit, buddy. Yeah, the stubble isn't helping. And then he got backhanded. Piece of trash. Yeah. Wait, am I wrong? Could I have done something wrong? He's home, baby. He's close to you. Somebody you had to save. If you've ever been sober. When's the last time you've been sober, dog? I'll bet it's 1.5 years ago. Once you got out of the forest with Norn, you started drinking immediately, right? Ah, here she is. What's your deal? What's your deal, hot lady? Reasons. Reasons. Yeah. Oof. The broken version. Dead. Yup. So it's all Paul's own anxiety and paranoia and self-hatred. Cold water. Let's go. Yep. Yep. Time to make a change, man. Stop the drink. Start the sleep. Do the morning practice. Cold water. Yep. Yup. Yeah, I might not be able to fix this. Well, but you've realized that there's something to fix, right? I might not be able to fix this, but that implies that there is something that you want to fix. Wow, that's really good. Wow, that was really over the top. Why? Why, show? Why? Why did we put $8 billion into breaking a piece of bread? Why were there $8 billion of bread there? Is he here? Yup. Oh, Eris, no killing. Eris, no killing, please. You motherfucker! Oh, he shaved. Who the fuck are you, is what I'm saying. The fuck are you to talk to me? You shut the fuck up and talk to Eris, bitch! You shut the fuck up and talk to Eris, bitch! Yeah, hi, Roigerd. Yeah, you're realizing that something is not what you thought. Most fathers are far from perfect. Those only matter while you're... Oh, right! He's a bad father! Oh! Roigerd is a son-destroying father who watches the potential for reconciliation between father and son and goes, now! Do it, or else. And Paul just saw it, too. He doesn't know what it was, but he saw it. I love bartenders who just sit there and just... Best way to gather information ever. Yes, he's a fucking badass. And a monster. He's killed hundreds of people, man. He didn't really save Rudy that often, you know? His presence was helpful, but it's kind of the other way around. Opening with an apology. No, and we get a response apology as well. You don't need to apologize, it's my fault and I'm sorry. All like a game. Every time, it's always been like a game. Right, but... I should apologize instead, but that's not it. You haven't been just having fun. So we actually get to reconciliation. Let's go. No, you didn't actually. But we can come to terms, right? Silence. What are you gonna do? I'd like to know what you said. That's good. Not telling him what to do. Asking. This is great. Oh, but there are problems there. What? What? Well, we know that Soros had a problem, but what? All of FIGHTO? Well, still, kairimasu. Out adventuring. So it's as soon as I know I'm acting properly, right, father? Now that I'm aware, I'm acting in good faith. What are you gonna say? Right on time. Yeah, look at your father. See what he actually is showing. Because he's distraught by his love for you. He can't even. Wow. The day when? When he screwed up? Oh, is it his own face? Oh. A friend who can't help him. It's not nice. No, you don't. I wish I could like this. Wants to stop him. This isn't good. And so he pushes away his last friend. Right. He didn't come by. And he never did, yeah. Right, you just left it. So he saw it was his own face in the mirror? Yes, he did. The connection matters. Okay. Jeez, he's young. Yeah. Yeah, he's got a lot more lined up, right? I mean, you look at him, he's a specimen. Oh. Okay. Right here, right now. But impossible. Is he gonna go around and hug him? Yep. Yeah, this guy's like, all right. If you put them out and you bring them together. Huh? Huh? Hey? Huh? What? Oh! Hip, hi! Hoo-yah! Glomp! Wachow! And we get to say what we actually meant. Embrace the child. Hands together, dumbass. Arms round. Arms go pop. Come on. Yep, with force and meaning. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And he found one. Right. One step in the direction, not just Norn. Just so much emotion. Yeah. Can we get a cut of bartender approving? Can we shoot bartender's approval really quick? There he is. Let's go, man. My guy. Real hero of the story. Holy shit. Okay, we've got 5 minutes, which is really 3 minutes in order to wrap and redirect. We gotta redirect emotional energy into a different direction. And they've begun to speak like humans. What happened? Did she try to fight Big Girl? We're friends. It's all good. How dare you? How dare you? You have to hold a grudge. You have to hold a grudge, Rudy. Come on, be angry. We've made mistakes. And mutualistic humility. Mutualistic humility is real good. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Richard gets it. Yeah, all right, lady. We get you too. Ah, there we go. Say please clap. E. Oh. So we can just do it now. Sick. Yeah, family. Your family's fucked and gone and dilapidated and Soros is dead. Nani? Please explain not exists. Another family split. Nothing to be done. That's bigger. Me and you. Fucking Eris. It's all according to plan. Not really, but Kakugo. We reconciled, that's what matters. Nice. Respect. Good as shit, dude. Good as fuck. Yep. Yep, rad. So layered. Really solid. Oh, wow, Niagara Falls. They must generate a lot of hydroelectric mat. Oh my god, her tits are so big. They're just so big. What the fuck? Yada. See a nerd. Okay. Oh, with children always. Pop pop. Hi, I am scary deadly man. Cleaned up his father's house, right? Like actually cleaned him up, you know? He's actually a different person now. Such spice. Oh, little figures as well. I was like, what the fuck? What? Ah, what else you got? Hi, geese. Yeah, you do. Fuck off, you jester trickster deity. He's always traveling. Huh. He's gonna help too. Fuck off, geese. Fuck off, dude. You already know where they are. You asshole. You asshole made of shit. God, they're so big. What the fuck? Oh, we finally get a name, too. Vieira and Shara. Writes down Vieira for research purposes. For no reason at all. And we're fully not fading out into ED. We're just running it now. Nice. Nice. With father behind him and with son behind him. It's how you move forward into the world. You gotta get your family in order. What about next one? Okay. Separate journeys, because that's exactly it. And that might bring us to some of the other people who've been split up. This episode is excellent. It's not even going to take that long to discuss. It really isn't. So here we go. revelation of how Paul experienced the cataclysm and how it went for him. And then the marching through progress, symbologically, right? Taking care of the child on the horse, headed to places, hiding from the rain, walking through the various landscapes, finding the first elements of the recovery, and bringing together the tribe and the opportunity, and becoming more haggard as he puts more responsibility on himself and less care for himself, you might say. He meets all of these squad members and individuals. He puts it all together, and there's this smile to him as he's glad to see other people reunited, because he is reuniting other people. We see scenes of other people hugging, but he isn't succeeding in his own goals. He isn't moving toward anything, and so he's crushed by it too. Norn is continuously trying to cheer him up and be happy, and it works, but it doesn't work for long, right? Because the constant grind down of failure is not something that you can just bolster when you're a tiny child who doesn't know how to deal with. She's no therapist, right? She's not a psychiatrist who can save her father. So she's trying in all the ways that children do, but it doesn't work. And he's trying in all the ways that adult men do, and women. The best way, or the most frequent way that we self-medicate, is with alcohols and drugs. And so he's alcoholing because he wants to not feel this pain. And it's these two who should be ceasing this, who should be causing this to change, but they can't because they have too much respect for him, is the way that I read it. They let him go because he's the leader, and whatever he says goes. And so they're not willing to step in and go, you can't drink anymore, man. Because, well, they wouldn't be able to stop him if he tried, actually, because he's actually that strong and physically powerful, as they wouldn't be able to. And Norn is, like, very literally trying over and over to interrupt him and trying to prevent this. And he's holding on just to that, and that's all he can hold on to. Okay, so it was unclear what day we're in. Geese just pops up, and he knows Paul already, so, you know, Geese is a character. He tells him to swing by the guild tomorrow so he'll meet somebody interesting. He's not talking about Rudy, which is interesting. You've got this look on your face, he talks it through, and he actually does, he's the therapist. Geese has therapeutic and psychiatric background. And it comes down to this. You think that he's a genius, and so you expect him to be doing ingenious things and not goofing off like a kid and not acting like a child at all. And you forget that he's a child, and so you put too high expectations on him. This is me and my father. I'm a brilliant human being. So is my father. I'm more so. It's really quite simple. It's really straightforward. I'm better than my father in almost every single way. And good on him, because, well, for one thing, I had a father and he didn't. So there's a solid reason for why I'm better than him, because I had a father, and a good one, at least one who tried really hard. And I had a mother, and she was present too. Now, some shit spiraled out of control on both fronts, but I had that growing up, and that does a lot. And then you have that my mother's biological pattern and my father's biological pattern meshed pretty well to create me. And I ended up coming out pretty okay and brilliant compared to my dad, which is saying something because he's a multi-talented genius. But he views me as such a genius that any mistakes that I make must be some characterological failing in me. Like, I must have decided to make those mistakes because I'm too good to otherwise, right? Like, how is it possible that you could fuck things up? That's such bullshit. How is it possible for you to act like a child? That's such bullshit. You should be already a genius and already doing all these things and already have this all in order. That's not how people work. You gotta have some mutualistic humility. He got a spur to be his bodyguard. Of course he could cross the demon continent, and Geese is like, that's not it, man. It's not it. He's a genius. Is it wrong to expect things from people with talent? And Geese just stops talking. He just lets him talk himself out. And he goes, yep, you're wrong. You've never been there. And so you're judging without understanding, right? Similarly, I'll say something about this. My father viewed my pursuit of computer programming and then my later pursuit of art criticism as a foolish pursuit. Effectively, he's a physical worker. He needs to be able to see the physical benefits of his work. And so he viewed me sitting at my computer for 10, 12 hours coding as not work. Right. And so, having never been to the demon continent, the place where I was, he judged it as unworthy and less difficult without ever having been there. And I, having done the work that he had asked of me, and having done the work that I had chosen, knew that the work that I had chosen is actually harder. Or at least as hard. So it's that judgment of like, well, you're not really working hard. It's like, have you ever tried? He was just frolicking and gallivanting out in the demon continent. And Geese goes, nobody frolics and gallivants in the demon continent. Frolicking gets you dead. So he was working, and you're taking it too lightly, and you're talking about stuff you don't understand. There's nothing there. Okay, especially since he's a child. So then why did he seem happy? Well, because he was trying not to worry you. Well, because I'm hopeless or something? And he goes, yes. Yeah. And it doesn't take a genius to tell that you're pretty fucked up right now. You're pretty pathetic, man. And he goes and he scratches at his chin. And in scratching at his chin, he realizes the beard that's there and the growth that's there. And he goes, fuck. So why can't you just be happy to see him? You're both alive and well. Well, he can't. Because he's pissed in every possible way. And so then he goes a little snarky and he's like, well, you know, if I were him, I'd actually just cut all ties and walk away, which is something that he's ideated. So that's something to be clear of. It's also exactly what a son will do. If you really disrespect him, a son will absolutely walk away from you. And if you say something like, I'll never forgive you, which is what my father said to me, your son is going to walk away and not try. You're both alive and well. Start by celebrating that. So we get some genius from Geese, and he says something prophetic. Or were you hoping for something for a dead-eyed son with parts of him missing? Is that what you wanted? A destroyed boy? He's grimacing. He can't even. And so we move into it. And he goes and he sits by his daughter. And he has a vision. As he sits by his daughter, he has a vision of the brilliant, beautiful Rudy who's back and alive and a part of this family again. And he has the other vision. The vision of a destroyed boy who he has failed. And this boy looks up at him and says it's his fault. My body is like this. This thing that you brought into the world, that you're responsible for, you've allowed it to be crushed and churned up. And so what does Paul do? He does what men and women have done for centuries when we realize that we're in a state that can't continue. He goes to the cold. And he goes to the cleaning power of water. And in a way, you know, there's religious symbolism around water and baptism. And that's what it is. It's purification. A cold splash of water can literally be the point at which you change your life. Your whole life. It's part of the reason the cold showers work. Cold water is cleansing. It wakes up your systems, your soul systems, your mind systems, your body systems, all of them. It wakes you up. And so if you've been asleep for a while, or if you've been sleepwalking for a while, which Paul has, splash, and he's awake. And the look that he gives is fantastic. And he grins. This, and looks at himself in a reflection, a wavy reflection. The chaos, the unknown, right? Because he's in a moment of change now. He's not going to be the way that he was before. He's going to step forward into the unknown. And he goes, this might not be salvageable. I might fail. I might not succeed at even getting myself out of here. And it's so vague that he might be talking about himself, but he's talking about himself, right? Because he's scratching his beard. He's going, my mental state might not be salvageable. But he's also saying my relationship with my son might not be salvageable. But what he's really saying as he says this, in my mind, is he's saying, challenge accepted. That's what he's saying. He's saying, this might be impossible. Challenge accepted. Because he smiles and he looks in the mirror as he does it and he goes, this might not work. Okay. And he's willing and he's ready. Bingo. Okay, why? 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 Why is that a $10,000 bread break? Why is that the best piece of animation that I've seen in weeks? What the fuck? Like, actually, what the fuck? Okay, sad and sober. Get your boy, Mr. Bartender. Guy walks in, Eris is pissed. Eris stands up. He tries to dismiss it, and it's like, that's not it. And then eventually, we get Richard coming over and removing her because, of course, leave them be. Didn't you see him? What kind of father could do that? Don't be so harsh. Most fathers are far from perfect, he says, and it's important that we remember who Ruijerd is. Ruijerd is a Spurd who, as far as we can tell, is responsible, at least in his own mind, for the death of his son. the permanent death of his son. He carries his spear around with him. And so what he says, as we match human to human, you may have your grievances, but those only matter while your son is alive. Some things are a little bit more important than your anger, buddy. And this coming from a multi-hundred-year-old Spurred who has had hundreds of years to regret the things that he never said to his son. And so when he sees a man, a short-lived man who has the opportunity to change his relationship with his son, Richard is like, at spear point, go. I'll kill you if you don't, basically, is how I read. He's like, you're going to go and do this, motherfucker. You got one choice. You got one choice. Bartender character. Perfect. Perfect to have here. The watching and waiting, right? We get even the eye. He's watching the whole time. So our awkwardness begins, and we talk it through, and it ends up being, you're not afraid of him? And we do the awkward back and forth as they begin. It's like first date talk. It's like small talk, little things. The weather's okay. And finally, we come down to the head of it, to the root of the problem. And the apology back. No, you don't need to. You're right. No, you're right. And once we do that, we start to frame them together in this circle. No, you're right. No, you're right. I had it easy, even though he didn't, right? Both of them take radical responsibility for the issue. It's my fault. No, it's my fault. Even the parts that aren't their fault are either of their faults. Perfect. So let's find out about about what's right. And he goes ahead and he watches a little bit. He's watching how this is going, and he goes, and he makes a decision, which is that he's going to interact in this moment. And so they talk and they talk. Everything's all fucked. Everything's all fucked everywhere. I'm going to go search for our family. You keep doing what you're doing. And he begins to get up. And the moment when we're about to split, the bartender pops in, puts something down on the table and says, no, you sit back down at the table, is what he's saying, essentially. This is on the house. And what he actually says to them is, listen, kid, I don't know what's going on here, but you haven't looked your dad in the eyes. What? And so he looks, and he sees a human being there. And he says that he's seen that kind of face before. And it's only implied, because we show this whole scene. This person was trying to be nice to him, trying to bolster him, trying to say, no, your way of being isn't torture. But it is torture, of course. And so he drives him out, because you'll never understand. And then it's his own face in the mirror here, right? This face. That's the face. Just stupid pride and tears in his eyes. But even with Paul's stupid pride, right? That face of pain, he came to see you. Letting that go, unforgivable. Impossible. He came to see you. He reached out despite the hatred. And more importantly, despite Paul's own pride, he came to apologize. And he did so. He came out of his way to come and apologize. Like a human. And so Rudy gives him the suggestion. Let's pretend we didn't fight. We're reunited now, and that's what matters. And he walks him through it. Get the fuck over here. Get on your damn knees. Get your damned arms open and let me jump into your arms like a kid. Let's do the thing. All right, now we do the thing. And it breaks them both. And makes them both whole. Because of course it does. And they hold the hug for at least 15 seconds, which is about right. I'll mention that again, because I mentioned it a couple times in the episode. I'll just give you the backing on that. When you hug somebody for 14 plus seconds, that's about the break point. That's when you get a significant release, like a really significant release of oxytocin and other bonding chemicals in your brain. And those bonding chemicals will make you feel closer to that person, but they also just generally make you feel like you're a functional human being, because functional human beings are social human beings, and social human beings should be in physical contact with each other. And our brains and biochemistry are built, structured, and manufactured to make you like doing that and to reward you when you do. So, you need friends to be in physical contact with, not necessarily sexually, physical contact with, and you need to be in physical contact with your family. If you have family, you need to be touching them more. More than you do. I don't care how much you do. You need to be doing it more. If any of you out there have kids, hold your kids a lot. It really changes their trajectory in life. Like it's statistically significant as far as I know, and the studies are very clear that more and less touch is a strong determiner for whether your kids will have successful social lives in the future. So fix whatever's up with you and hold your kids. And hold, if you're in love with somebody, hold them a lot. And don't, not just to fuck, really hold them. And if you're friends with somebody, sit with them and be like, hey, can we sit together and put our arms around each other and just hang out? And if you're both down for that, if you're willing and able to overcome the prejudices and the weirdness around touch, you can really improve your life. And this is coming from somebody who has a really hard time with touch, because I've been hurt in some ways that make it very difficult for me to express myself in platonic touch. Platonic touch has been damaged for me, you might say. My circuits around this sort of thing, around platonic touch, are damaged. And that's partly my parents' fault. They fucked up. So my circuits are a bit damaged. And even so, or maybe especially so, I've been actively incorporating more touch into my life, and it's a game changer. Hug your dad, hug your mom, hug your siblings, hug your friends. And when you hug somebody, go, I'm going to hug you for at least 14 seconds, and then give them a really good hug. I do it with people all the time. We have friends over, and I make it a point to hug people, and some of them I've talked it through with, and I'm like, when we hug, I'm going to hug you really tight, and I'm going to hug you for like 15 seconds. And they're like, okay, great, bet, let's go. But here we are. And what really matters is that they're able to speak their real truth to each other. I missed you. And we get, well, the truth from Paul as well. I couldn't find anyone. Because that's what he's been living in for a year and a half, is a year and a half of striving with no reward, no success. Paul keeps failing. Nobody to find, nobody at all. And that's rough, man. And so he finds Rudy. And he's so distraught. I'm sorry, Rudy. And they're both sorry. And they hug it the fuck out, and we get to cut to bartender just cleaning house, right? Keeping everything the way it should be. And so I was finally able to reunite with my father. And we move through and we get some fun stuff, and we see them on the same page very much about various things and women and all sorts of things. And here's the great thing. They had a struggle in front of them, which was getting the money that they needed to travel and getting the ability to travel into the next place that they were going. And it was going to take them a bunch of time that they didn't have. Because he reunites with his father, he is given the gifts. He's able to stand on his father's shoulders, you know? Standing on the shoulders of giants a little bit. And that's exactly correct. Go and reconcile with your parents if you have to. And it's a lesson that I have to take very much to heart, because I have an unreconciled relationship with my father. And it's one that I would like to fix so that I can stand on his damn shoulders, because he's got high shoulders. And there's stuff there that I need. So our characters all come together and leave together out onto the road with a lesson about cherishing your loved ones. And some big old titties. God, she is stacked. Fuck. And with that phrase, God, she is stacked, fuck, I'm going to leave off on this week's episode of Mushoku Tensei. Episodes, actually. So, I see why we needed these two together. I'm sure that I will think of other things to say about these two episodes, but so far, I think I grok the conflict and communication to some extent. I would love to hear other people's interpretations of the conflict, because I'm inevitably going to see it through the lens of my own relationship with my father and the other relationships that I've had in my life. I'd love to hear what other people think and how this moment in the story has affected people, because I'll bet it's affected a lot of people pretty heavily. Other than that, A banger pair of episodes of Mushoku Tensei, eh? Next up will be the OVA, the 0.5. I don't think I'm going to do that. Won't be an episode of, or like a reaction episode. I just don't know when I'm going to squeeze it in, but I'll squeeze it in. And that's what she said. And thank you so much for watching Mushoku Tensei. If you enjoyed this video or any of the videos that came before it or any of the free, ad-free videos that are all over my channel, please consider supporting my work and continued existence as a human being by throwing me a few dollars via the Patreon. And any suggestions you have for the way that you think that should be run, I'll at least read them. I won't necessarily take them or use them, but I will at least read them. Comment down below, whatever the fuck you want. I'd love to hear what you think about this episode, and I'll see you next week. Well, actually, I'll see you in just 2 days for more Mushoku Tensei. Peace.